You killed the S-class mutant zombie, Silverback Tyrant. EXP plus 5,000. Current EXP, 51371. A crisp system beep rang out. Chu Xiu's body dropped from the sky like a falling spear, wind snapping his clothes as he descended. But just as the Silverback Tyrant died, far from the stadium, inside a building on the outer edge of the district, an ordinary zombie lifted its head and stared at the pillar of white light piercing the clouds. There was intelligence in its eyes. It was thinking. Roar. It opened its mouth. Yet no sound humans could hear came out. Only specialized equipment could detect it. An eerie, ultra-low frequency roar, distorted and abnormal, spreading outward like invisible ripples. 10 kilometers away, zombies could hear it. Looks like I really got it wrong. On the way down, Chu Xiu frowned at the corpse tide that still didn't change, even a little. Killing the tyrant gave him 5,000 EXP, sure. But he'd killed the wrong zombie. The Silverback Tyrant was strong, brutally strong. Yet it clearly wasn't the commander. A creature like that couldn't possibly direct a million-level corpse tide. But the instrument definitely detected sound waves near the stadium. Chu Xiu's brows tightened. Did I miss something? Just as doubt rose. Beep, beep, beep. The detector at his waist screamed again. Hoo-hoo. Then the corpse tide responded. The packed mass of zombies shifted, turning unnaturally uniform, moving in the same direction as if pulled by a single invisible string. From above, it looked like a black ocean beginning to flow. Worse. That ocean split. A massive chunk peeled away and surged southwest. More than 300,000 zombies. Exactly as Chu Xiu expected. As long as the southwest base held on long enough, it would keep attracting attention. And the one controlling the tide would be forced to issue commands again and again. Roar. Not long after, the strange low growl came again. Beep, beep, beep. The detector flared red, flashing faster. Chu Xiu's eyes turned icy. So, you think you can fool me and stay hidden? The detector's direction lock tightened. The sound source was coming from a building below, and the owner of that roar was still calmly giving orders, unaware it was being traced. No matter how smart it was, it could never predict that someone could locate it through its low-frequency signal. 2 consecutive commands. 2 clean bearings. The range was locked. Chu Xiu didn't waste a word. He shot toward the building. No fancy flight, just a brutal freefall, only using magnetic control to slightly alter his angle. Roar! The moment Chu Xiu streaked overhead, inside the building, that strange zombie, indistinguishable from a normal runner at first glance, let out another low growl. Then, crash! A tyrant smashed through the window and leapt out. It roared up at the sky like it was deliberately calling attention to itself, then sprinted away without looking back. Chu Xiu hovered above the building and didn't even spare the tyrant a glance. A decoy? The detector's red was still nailed to the building. Bright and unwavering. That meant only one thing. It was still inside. Chu Xiu didn't plan to enter. He planned to tear the whole hiding place open. You like hiding, don't you? He raised his hand. Magnetic induction surged. The steel skeleton inside the building answered like iron obeying a king. Then, pull. Rumble. The entire building shuddered. Rebar ripped out of concrete like veins being yanked from flesh. I-beams screamed as they were dragged free. Load-bearing supports collapsed one after another, until finally, the building gave up. It didn't topple to one side. It collapsed straight down, layer by layer, like something had crushed it from above. Dust exploded outward. System prompts flooded in. You killed. You killed. You killed. The zombies inside were buried and crushed. But the ordinary zombie wasn't. At the last moment, an A-level tyrant shielded it and carried it out through the chaos. Chu Xiu's lips curved. Huh? An A-level tyrant protecting an ordinary runner. That was the moment everything clicked. And he finally understood why, in his last life, so many awakened humans searched until they went mad and still never found the true controller. Because everyone, including Chu Xiu, believed the commander had to be some terrifying mutant tyrant, some horrifying monster, a king, a nightmare. Who would ever suspect that the one commanding millions was something fragile that looked exactly like a common zombie? Master Brain. S+ mutant zombie. An extreme evolutionary branch. Appearance and physical strength similar to a runner, combat power extremely weak, but possesses terrifying spiritual power and intelligence comparable to humans. Can learn, command zombies, and create corpse tides. The name fits. Chu Xiu hovered in the air, staring down. With so many zombies, you're the only one with a brain. Roar. The tyrant beside the master brain bellowed and lunged. Chu Xiu flicked a coin. In the same instant, an invisible magnetic track formed. The coin accelerated to supersonic speed.
Boom.
You killed the A-level mutant zombie, Tyrant. EXP plus 1000. Current EXP 59447. The Tyrant didn't even get a second to struggle. A fist-sized hole appeared in its forehead.
It dropped.
Roar. The master brain's low roar sharpened, desperate. The surrounding zombies went insane. They surged in, stacking and crushing each other, forming a suffocating ring. Even the slow runners were trampled underfoot. Hundreds of thousands gathered, swarming like ants around a trapped queen. But Chu Xiu only waved his hand. 2 steel bars, torn from the collapsed building, snapped forward like living chains. They wrapped the master brain's limbs and yanked it upward, into the air. The master brain could command others, but it had no power of its own. Bound in steel, it was helpless. No matter how it thrashed, it couldn't break free. It could only be dragged closer. Roar. As Chu Xiu approached, that glossy intelligence in its eyes finally cracked. Fear surfaced. Real fear. Chu Xiu smiled. So, even zombies can be afraid. Of course. Once something has wisdom, it understands what death means. And once it understands death, it fears it. Below, the zombies climbed on each other until they formed a horrifying pyramid of flesh, rising nearly to rooftop height, trying to reach their master. A living mountain of corpses. A crawling black tower. Still useless. Too late. Chu Xiu sighed softly. If I had more time, handing you to Bai Xiao would be more interesting. A coin drifted out again. This time it moved slowly. Painfully slowly. Floating toward the master brain's forehead like an executioner's verdict. The master brain panicked completely. It roared again and again, making the swarm below even more violent. But none of it changed the coin's path. Not even a millimeter.
Ding.
You killed. A few minutes earlier, just before Chu Xiu found the true controller and executed it, the southwest side of the city was already drowning in despair. At the southwest base, the second helicopter supply drop had been completely used up. Zhang Haoping and his men were out of ammo, out of explosives, out of options. Even the awakened were collapsing. Xiao Taofu's mental power was totally drained. His knees kept buckling, his whole body swaying like the next gust of wind could knock him over. Beneath the high wall, the steel man was in even worse shape. The double axes Chu Xiu had forged for him were gone long ago. Now it could only swing its bare hands into the tide, crushing skulls and tearing bodies apart, while zombies poured in from every direction. And then it happened. The pressure finally crossed the limit. The steel figure was swallowed by the flood of corpses. No, you can't fall. Just hold on. Li Qiuyue was barely standing herself, her spiritual power trembling at the edge of collapse. Chu Xiu had told her to evacuate by helicopter. For once, she didn't listen. Not because she was reckless. Because she could feel it. Her power had reached a critical point, like a door that had been locked for too long. One more push, and it would open. One more step, and she would rise to the next level. Stronger. Useful. Able to stand beside Chu Xiu instead of behind him. Hold on, Li Qiuyue, you're the best. Be stronger. I need to help Chu Xiu more. She clenched her teeth, swallowing the dizziness and the fainting wave that kept trying to drag her down. Lightning kept bursting from her hands. again and again. But against a corpse tide, her effort felt like trying to stop a river with her palms. The last line of defense broke. Zombies climbed over each other, stacking bodies into a massive slope made of corpses, pushing upward like a living landslide. They rushed the wall. Where's the fried rice? Where are the grenades? Anything. Hurry. Blow them up. Zhang Haoping was red-eyed now, screaming at the corpse slope like rage alone could stop it. But there was nothing left. The last explosives were gone. Even the gas canisters had been emptied and thrown. Hoo. More and more zombies climbed. Higher. Closer. The soldiers snapped. Ah. Damn it. They didn't retreat even after the bullets ran dry. They fired the last round in the chamber, then grabbed whatever they could use as a weapon and charged. A shovel. A steel bar. A broken bayonet. Anything. One soldier fell. Then another. Bodies were torn apart under the swarm. Just as Bai Xiao predicted, even with the weapons Chu Xiu provided, the southwest base couldn't truly stop a million-scale tide. And the cruelest part? Chu Xiu had only been gone for 20 minutes. Not even 30. Yet the base had already reached the edge of death. Zhang Haoping watched the wall turn into a slaughterhouse, and his eyes went heavy with grief. He had never felt time move so slowly. 40 minutes of holding out had once sounded possible. Now, it felt like a fantasy. Then,
boom.
In the far sky, a straight white streak split downward. A line of light cutting through the heavens. The trace of something moving at supersonic speed. Li Qiue's eyes widened. It's Chu Xiu's electromagnetic railgun. That single streak hit her like a shot of adrenaline. Her exhausted body found a second breath. And without her even realizing it, her spiritual power began to rise. As if that door inside her had finally cracked open. Her lightning changed too. Sharper. Heavier. More violent. She didn't notice. But the air around her did. You killed the S+ mutant zombie. Master Brain. EXP plus 10,000. Current EXP. 71241. At the same time, far away in the city center, Chu Xiu's coin passed through the Master Brain skull. And the corpse tide broke. Not slowly. Not gradually. Instantly. The order vanished. The will vanished. Below Chu Xiu, the towering pyramid of zombies collapsed like it had lost its bones. Zombies, without command, returned to their original state, wandering hunger. Millions of them spread outward, no longer gathering, no longer moving as one. They hunted individually, driven by instinct instead of orders. Some mutant zombies, unable to find living prey, even began ripping apart other zombies. Each city, which had been controlled by a single terrifying rhythm, fell into pure chaos. On the outskirts, the beasts that had been forced away by the corpse tide sensed the change. They began moving back toward the center. And at the southwest base, the miracle arrived in the ugliest form. As the Master Brain died, the zombies pressing the wall suddenly lost their goal. Their movement turned messy. Their direction scattered. The corpse slope under the wall started collapsing, bodies sliding down like a broken dam. The zombies in the distance stopped massing. They wandered. They split apart. They drifted away. In front of the base, the ground was no longer ground. It was red earth layered with severed limbs, crushed skulls, and broken torsos. Dead bodies everywhere. The stench was so thick it felt physical. Zombie blood poured from high ground into low ground, forming a dark river. Drains clogged. Sewer pipes filled. Even manholes kilometers away began to spit blood upward. In the city center, Chu Xiu stared at the disintegrating tide, almost disbelieving it. Success? A million-scale corpse tide really fell apart. And more important than the kill itself, he had found the reason it existed. That discovery alone could save countless survivors in the future. He let out a short, self-mocking laugh. So, I became the world's savior by accident. But he wasn't interested in being anyone's savior. He only wanted to live. And if he could keep the people around him alive while doing that, he would. As for everyone else, he had never promised them anything. Enough. No point overthinking. Chu Xiu exhaled and checked the time. 29 minutes. I hope you held on. 29 minutes since he left the southwest base. He didn't know if Zhang Haoping and the others were still breathing. So he moved. No hesitation. He shot toward the southwest base. And as he flew, he controlled metal along the way, strangling and shredding zombies wherever he could without slowing down. After all, that was EXP. And in this world, EXP was life.
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
You kill. You kill. You kill. Current EXP, 97,411. The corpse tide has disintegrated. Chu Xiu, who has no worries, finally no longer has to be stingy with his spiritual power. Along the way, fly and kill. Left hand magnetic field. Right hand thunderbolt. And scrupulously slaughter the zombies along the way. When it's time to get to the southwest base, there are countless zombies killed by Chu Xiu. The total number of experience points on the attribute panel has approached the 100,000 mark. And, because there is no Mastermind's command, Chu Xiu hardly encountered any decent zombie attack along the way. Lost command. Most of the zombies went back to wandering aimlessly. You don't even look up at the sky. Coupled with the diamagnetic flight of Chu Xiu, it was silent. As a result, most of the zombies killed by Chu Xiu along the way did not know what happened until they died. Wandering in the last second, in the next second, his head was chopped off by a piece of metal, or he was electrocuted into coke by a bolt of lightning. Pass through a collapsed construction area. Chu Xiu finally saw the high wall of the southwest base. And under the high walls, densely piled up with a thick layer of zombie corpses. Looking around, I can't see an open space, and there are at least 3 or 4 layers of corpses piled up everywhere. The wind blows. The pungent smell of blood and the rancid smell of zombies.
Come on.
At this moment, the dark clouds that had enveloped the city before finally started to rain. With thunder and lightning, bean-sized rain fell from the sky and washed the bloody earth. The blood, which had been solidified at first, flowed again under the scouring of the rain. Form a blood-red river. Flow to low-lying places. Under the torrential rain, a corpse pile moved. Then, the steel man pushed aside the piles of corpses and climbed out of the pile. Its metal body is no longer shiny, but covered with dense scratches and bite marks. Bossed. See Chu Xiu. The stealers immediately greeted him. But there is no place to step around, and every step has to step on the corpse of the zombie.
Puff.
Puff. Every foot of the steel man will collapse the chest cavity of one, or even multiple corpses. When you pull your feet, again with large swathes of filthy blood and mincemeat. Sometimes, the thickness of the corpses piled up and even covered the knees of the stealers. As a result, it felt like it was trudging through a quagmire every time. It's just that this quagmire is made of corpses. Rest now. Chu Xiu glanced at the steel man, didn't say much, and continued to fly towards the high wall. The defensive wall, at this time, collapsed in many places. Countless zombie corpses were piled up in front of every collapsed wall. Like a hill, some still dead zombies were pressed down by their companions. Their hands and feet stretched out from the gaps in the corpse pile, waving wildly, trying to struggle out. Chu Xiu ignored these ordinary zombies. It landed directly on a relatively intact high-walled platform. Chu Xiu. Li Qiuyue immediately greeted her. It's worth noting that her mental state is exceptionally good. Apart from the beads of sweat on his body, he didn't look like he had experienced a war at all. Your abilities have been upgraded? 35. Chu Xiu looked at Li Qiuyue. I found that her lightning control has been upgraded to LV4. Well, just Rose. Li Qiuyue nodded, but there was no joy in her eyes. Instead, full of guilt. Too late. Many people here could have survived if they could have been promoted earlier. Li Qiuyue thought to herself. Chu Xiu looked away from Li Qiuyue, but found a dead silence around. Originally, there were about 100 soldiers on the high wall, including Zhang Haoping.
But now,
only 10 people survived. Zhang Haoping also survived, but with a broken arm. He leaned against the wall with a pale face. Where's the arm? Chu Xiu came over and asked. Mr. Chu. I saw that Chu Xiu came over. Zhang Haoping endured the severe pain, supported the ground with his only remaining hand, and stood up forcibly. There was nothing but sadness on his face because of the death of his subordinates. More is grateful. Mr. Chu, I didn't expect you to disintegrate, the corpse tied. Zhang Haoping is not stupid, although he didn't know how Chu Xiu did it. But he was 100% sure that the collapse of the corpse tide must have something to do with Chu Xiu. Mr. Chu, you saved us and all the survivors around H City. 35. Zhang Haoping stood up straight. With the only left hand, he gave Chu Xiu a military salute. Although Chu Xiu's perseverance in his mission caused him and his subordinates to suffer heavy casualties. But as a soldier, as a commander, Zhang Haoping knew very well that if Chu Xiu didn't come, their casualties would be even worse. More likely, no one can survive alone. What is wrong with your arm? Zhang Haoping's salute and thanks. Chu Xiu seemed to have not seen it. The focus was still on his arm. I was bitten by a zombie. I was afraid of infection, so... Zhang Haoping put down his salute left hand and replied. What's your plan next? Chu Xiu asked. Zhang Haoping was silent. The southwest base no longer exists. I have become disabled and my subordinates have also died, so what else is there to plan? Chu Xian. Zhang Haoping originally wanted to ask Chu Xiu to keep these good soldiers, but opened his mouth. But he swallowed the words again. Do you know Shan? At this moment, Chu Xiu spoke. This Scorpion Mountain. This is the location of the arsenal that the Steelers found.
No.
The Jishan arsenal is there. Li Hao. Zhang Haoping nodded. Arsenal. How did I hear there was an arsenal there? Chu Xiu wondered. Mr. Chu, the arsenal you mentioned should be the outer warehouse of the factory. The real arsenal is inside the mountain. It's hard for the average person to find. 35. Zhang Haoping explained. With his military rank, it is still clear what secret locations are around. Is that so? Chu Xiu pondered for a moment. This time, Battle of the Southwest Base. It once again proved that hot weapons are still the best choice for dealing with zombies and ordinary beasts at this stage. So, in the beginning, Chu Xiu planned to ask Zhang Haoping to help him get a few tanks out of the arsenal. As a result, the arsenal was transformed into an arsenal. Zhang Haoping, do you want to do it with me? Chu Xiu asked without hesitation. Since it's a factory, then you need workers. Mr. Chu, are you telling the truth? Hearing Chu Xiu's invitation, Zhang Haoping was personally excited. Bleeding and pale face. Excited. There was also a bit of blood. Chu Xian. Chief Chu, don't worry about me. I'm already disabled. As long as you can keep these soldiers. 55. They are real soldiers and absolutely obey your orders. 99. Everyone is a good boy. Zhang Haoping said excitedly. Between words, I didn't think about myself at all. I have been speaking for the last few young soldiers who survived, hoping that they can find a way out. It doesn't matter if you're disabled or not. Besides, I didn't intend to let you go to the battlefield again. 99. What you have to do is to take your people and operate the arsenal to produce weapons for me. Chu Xiu interrupted Zhang Haoping. He spoke his thoughts directly. Rack an arsenal and take control of an arsenal. These two choices, as long as people with normal brains probably know which one to choose. And, as the time goes, there will be more and more survivor bases bringing weapons and ammo, especially ammo, as a common currency. Many times, a few dozen rounds of rifle rounds can buy a young woman with a 530. Get the arsenal up and running? No problem, Chief Chu. I promise to complete the mission. Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Zhang Haoping finally understood what Chu Xiu was thinking. There is value in knowing that you are disabled. Say no more. Immediately took over the task. At the same time, he also recognized the leader Chu Xiu from the bottom of his heart. Name: Zhang Haoping. S*X male. Loyalty: 92. Talent: none. That's fine. Chu Xiu nodded and took a look at Zhang Haoping's attributes, and found his loyalty even higher than the Steel Man. Is this the soldier before the end? Once you swear allegiance, you will never regret it. Chu Xiu thought to himself. It is believed that Zhang Haoping's loyalty is due to the obedience of soldiers. But it's not just that. In addition to his obedient nature, the bigger reason was because Chu Xiu broke the corpse tied by himself. Not only did they save their lives, even more powerful, the military respects the strong. Not only Zhang Haoping, if Chu Xiu scans several other soldiers, he will find Deb. The other soldiers who survived are also very loyal. The lowest is also over 70. The others are all between 89 and 10. Get the injured on the plane. I've got the medicine there. Chu Xiu ordered. The last time I looked for a diesel generator, I brought back a lot of medicines from the hospital. This time it came in handy. At the same time, dong dong dong, the Steel Man, who recovered some strength, walked hard, all the way, stepping on the corpses everywhere. Came under the high wall. Boss, what to do with these corpses? The Stealer shouted from the wall. It remembers what Chu Xiu said. If there are too many corpses piled up and not dealt with as soon as possible, monsters called limb receivers may breed. Or, even more terrifying things. Take away to burn it. Go find a tanker or something. Chu Xiu ordered. It's good to have subordinates. You don't have to do everything yourself. Just give it a command. Yes. The Steel Man immediately turned around. Walk away again. With every step, it will collapse into it, making a screeching sound of flesh and blood. After the Stealers left, Chu Xiu turned around and looked around, but I didn't see the figure of the little girl who manipulated the soil. Xiu, where's that little girl? What's her name, Fu Lai? Chu Xiu found Li Qiuyue and asked. I used to look for the mastermind in the corpse tied before, and even forgot the name of the little girl.
Peach.
Speaking of Taofu, Li Qiuyue sighed slightly.
Done.
Take Chu Xiu away from the high wall. Walk towards the southwest base where people are already empty. Inside the southwest base at this time, it's already unrecognizable. The survivors who fled in a hurry dismantled almost everything they could take with them. Left, it's all over the place. All kinds of dirty domestic garbage are everywhere. The makeshift shacks are crisscrossed, and even the places for people to walk are very small. Chu Xiu gave a look. The magnetic energy immediately rolled up the hut that was in the way and moved to the sides to make way. Just ahead. 35. Under the leadership of Li Qiuyue, Chu Xiu came to a clearing that had just been reclaimed. The soil is fresh. The shed above should have been pushed aside by the dirt. This formed a flat open space in the crowded southwest base. Little Taofu knelt down in the middle of the open space. In front of it is a raised dirt bag.
Or grave.
Hearing the movement of Chu Xiu and Li Qiuyue coming, Xiao Taofu immediately stood up. Turn your back. Secretly wipe away tears. When he turned around, there was already a smile on his face. Sister Qiuyue. And, big brother who handles metal. Taofu felt the trembling of the ground and identified the identity of Chu Xiu and Li Qiuyue. Chu Xiu looked at Taofu, who was blind, but smiled. Silent. He suddenly remembered that he seemed to have copied Taofu's ability and had not used it yet. Have to keep your feet on the ground? Chu Xiu thought for a while, then bent down and took off his shoes, stepping barefoot on the freshly refurbished soil of Taofu. In an instant,
Chu Xiu's face changed.
At this moment when you are down to earth, it feels like you are at one with the earth. You can even feel the slightest vibration of the ground. In the grave is Taofu's mother. Chu Xiu could even feel the buried female corpse through the soil. Big brother? At this moment, Taofu seemed to have discovered something. Gray pupils, wide open. Although she couldn't see at all, she still turned her shocked face to Chu Xiu. Dove heard you. 35. You must be able to hear Tao Fu too. Tao Fu is like a creature that has been alone for a long time and suddenly found its own kind. Feeling out of control in an instant, he threw himself into Chu Xiu's arms. Mom is dead. Tao Fu can't hear her shaking anymore. You must understand, Toffee, because you can hear Toffee. The little Tao Fu, who has been holding on strong,
Now.
finally couldn't stand it anymore. Tears fell down in Chu Xiu's arms.
Chu Xiu did not speak.
Because as Tao Fu said, he could feel the vibration of Tao Fu, feel her frail body, trembling uncontrollably. Shortly after, the sky is still drizzling, but there was a raging fire outside the southwest base. 2 full tankers. Only then did the zombie corpses piled up into mountains be lit together. Wind boosts fire. The fire raged over the mountains of corpses. Form a fire tornado straight into the sky. Scorching heat. You can feel it from a few kilometers away. With the burning of the raging fire, the corpse tide settled, and only the gray sky gradually became dim. On the helicopter, Xiao Taofu seemed to be glued to Chu Xiu. Her small body was clinging to Chu Xiu. She seemed terrified of flying. As an earth-controlling power user, she was afraid to leave the ground. Because as soon as your feet leave the ground, Toffee will lose all power. Back to the poor, weak and helpless blind man. Don't be afraid. It's all right. 99. Chu Xiu patted Taofu's shoulder lightly, her tone surprisingly gentle. Li Chiyue on the side looked at him in surprise. Little Taofu nodded. Instead, they are closer to Chu Xiu.
See.
Chu Xiu didn't say anything more. As a blind person, Xiao Taofu is very insecure. She couldn't see the eyes of the people around her, and she didn't know whether they were good or evil. Her world is dark. Before, the person who gave her a sense of security was her mother.
Now.
This person becomes Chu Xiu, who also has the ability to control the earth. It's getting dark. 35. Li Chiyue walked to the porthole of the helicopter, looked at the gradually dim sky, and muttered, "It feels like today is longer than the usual year." From the morning when Chu Xiu went out to catch zombies, to the control experiment when he came back, to the corpse tide in the afternoon, especially the last 40 minutes of defending the southwest base. 40 minutes alone. It's been a long time, like a few months have passed. Every point, every second is torture. Wait. Just when Li Chiyue sighed that the day had passed so long, Chu Xiu slapped his forehead. Suddenly, he stood up from his seat. You seem to remind me of something, Chiyue. What's up? Li Chiyue was stunned. Chu Xiu did not answer her, but walked to the cab and asked, Old Jiangtu, where are you now? I'll arrive at Yijiang Garden soon, Chief. The old man replied. Good. 35. Chu Xiu nodded. You guys go back first and arrange the arrangements. Chiyue, I'll leave this to you. Done. Chu Xiu opened the side door of the helicopter. The wind was blowing in. Chu Xiu, it's getting dark. Where are you going? Li Chiyue was puzzled. I almost forgot something. 99. Okay, before it gets dark, I'll go and fix it. You guys go back first. I'll go and come back. Chu Xiu finished. He jumped down without hesitation. Only Li Chiyue, who was stunned, and Xiao Taofu, who was also dazed, were left. Chiyue's sister, where is brother Chu Xiu? Because on the plane, there is no down-to-earth. Tao Fu lost the ability to perceive the earth. Can't see again. So I have absolutely no idea what just happened. 99. It's all right, little Tao Fu. Your brother Chu Xiu has something to do, so he should be back right away. Although Li Chiyue was also confused. However, she still hugged Tao Fu and calmed down in a gentle tone. The other side. Chu Xiu jumped out of the plane. He released a repulsive magnetic field in midair, stabilized his body, and then took out his mobile phone. Open the trackers page. Almost forgot about you. Looking at the flashing reds on the map, Chu Xiu immediately adjusted his direction and flew over. Red dot on the map. It was the night demon who deliberately let go last night. Chu Xiu had planned to take the night demon's lair in one pot during the day. As a result, there are too many. Actually forgot. But it's fine. It just so happened that I almost experienced 100,000. Let's take you to make up for it. Chu Xiu looked at his more than 90,000 experience points. Speed up the flight. Soon, it came to the location of the red dot on the map. A big hotel. The tracker shows the location, which is in the basement of this hotel. But Chu Xiu didn't plan to go in. Land on the ground. Magnetic field energy is released. Through a wall. Sure enough, in the underground parking lot of the hotel, I saw a head of night demons in a dormant state. 4 flowers. Night devils only come out at night. During the day, it will enter a sleep-like standby state, standing motionless in the dark. Try Tofu's Royal Land. Chu Xiu intends to try out the combat performance of the newly acquired abilities. But Chu Xiu didn't take off his shoes this time. Instead, he bent down and touched the ground lightly with his hands. The moment you touch, that feeling of being one with the ground reappeared. Sure enough, the so-called down-to-earth, as long as there is direct contact. 39. You don't have to use your feet. 9. Chu Xiu finished. He sensed the slight tremors of the ground with his earth-defying ability. Instantly locked the night demon in the parking lot. Then, raise your index finger and tap the ground lightly. Boom. In an instant, the earth trembled violently. Although Chu Xiu's U2 is also LV3, the same as Tao Fu. But Chu Xiu's spiritual power is dozens of times that of Tao Fu. The same ability. In the hands of Chu Xiu, the power exerted is also completely different. Boom! With a deafening roar. The earth shook violently, as if a 10-magnitude earthquake. Then, hundreds of thousands of tons of soil poured out from the ground, like a mountain of mud rising suddenly. Boom! A huge amount of dirt was manipulated by Chu Xiu and slammed over the hotel. Overturned the hotel. Buried. Boom! In the tremor of the earth, the soil began to return, and the location of the hotel gradually turned into a flat open space. As if there was never a hotel. Just a piece of fresh dirt. A flat open space. Why do I feel that the scene of controlling the soil is bigger than the control of the magnetic field? Chu Xiu, who accomplished all this, was surprised by himself. As long as down to earth, there is that feeling of being one with the earth. Royal soil does not need to consume too much mental power at all. Although the damage is limited. Against some powerful enemies, no amount of dirt will do anything. But have to admit, leaving aside the lethality, the scene of U2 is really shocking. Even more shocking than manipulating a magnetic field. Mountain. From Chu Xiu shot to the hotel building being buried by hundreds of thousands of tons of soil. Everything happened too fast. So much so that the night demon in the underground parking lot has not woken up from its dormant state. Just collapsed buildings and hundreds of tons of dirt, pressed into patties. You kill. You kill. All the night demons in the night demon's lair died the moment the building was buried. The prompts are loud and clear. Current EXP, 101,241. When the beep finally ends, Chu Xiu's experience value has also successfully broken through the 100,000 mark. Upgrade magnetic field control. Chu Xiu did not choose to upgrade the system. Despite the system level, if you upgrade to level 3, you will get a new function, Power Fusion. Fusion of 2 low-level talents. Become a 530 high-level talent with greater potential. Well said. But there is a limitation. That is, the 2 abilities to be fused must be innate abilities of the same type and attribute. Unfortunately, the 6 talent abilities that Chu Xiu has copied so far are all abilities of different types. There is no way to integrate, so Chu Xiu chose to improve his combat power first. But the strength has improved and the speed of gaining experience is also faster. Chu Xiu thought to himself. Talking room. The system has already started to upgrade after receiving the instruction from Chu Xiu.
Ding.
Consumes 100,000 EXP. Magnetic field control is upgraded to LV5. The moment the beep sounded, Raging energy hits like a flood. This energy is no longer within the control of human beings or any kind of life that conforms to common sense. It's like crossing a class. The essence of life is promoted. Originally, the improvement brought by the control of the magnetic field was related to energy and spiritual power. But this time, Chu Xiu feels that every cell of his own is bursting and being torn apart by the violent energy, and then reorganized by this energy. Tear again, regroup again, back and forth. At the same time, the surrounding blue star magnetic field seems to be strongly disturbed. The ground trembled slightly. Countless metal particles, as fine as dust, were suspended. The shaking was not very strong, but the surrounding buildings collapsed suddenly.
Countless steel bars.
Structural steel. Peel from concrete. Countless metals move slowly, without Chu Xiu's knowledge and control. Float with tiny metal particles. Surrounded by Chu Xiu. Gradually form a weird figure. 8 pattern. It corresponds to the turbulent magnetic field. Bang, bang, bang. A flock of birds passed through the area and flew around like crazy, until it hit something. Hit to death. Ho ho ho. Some zombies were attracted by the sound of the building collapsing. But before they got close to Chu Xiu, they were like walking into a maze, running around in a chaotic magnetic field. Inside the wreckage of a collapsed building, a compass, illogically, is spinning the pointer rapidly. This chaotic scene continued until Chu Xiu opened his eyes. The moment Chu Xiu opened his eyes, the slowly moving metal and metal particles stopped abruptly, and the turbulent magnetic field returned to normal. What a powerful feeling! Chu Xiu looked at the figure-8 pattern formed by countless metals around him. An invisible repulsive magnetic field, in the shape of a ring, spreads out.
Boom.
All objects disperse instantly. Not just metal but masonry, zombies, and even the wreckage of collapsed buildings. They are all driven by the repulsive magnetic field and fly in all directions. Sure enough, as long as it is strong enough, let alone metal, plastic can be manipulated. Chu Xiu looked back. The terrifying magnetic field disappeared in an instant. It's as natural as breathing, and it's easy to handle. Compared with the increase in strength, this upgrade, the greater improvement is the subtle control of the magnetic field. With my current control, I should be able to develop more attack methods. For example, electromagnetic pulse. Chu Xiu closed his eyes. In the next second, a beam of energy visible to the naked eye spread out in a ring shape. But this energy, in fact, it is a powerful high-power electromagnetic microwave. Because of the power outage, the only electronic device around is the mobile phone in Chu Xiu's pocket. Snapped. The moment when electromagnetic microwaves are generated, the mobile phone in Chu Xiu's pocket suddenly turned on, and then the screen went completely black. The internal electronic parts are all burned out by the instantaneous voltage of thousands of volts generated by electromagnetic microwaves, or an electromagnetic furnace. After testing the electromagnetic pulse, Chu Xiu still did not open his eyes. The magnetic field energy is released again. An invisible electric furnace that was invisible to the naked eye was formed around it. In an instant, terrible high temperature is created out of thin air around. From a distance, the air in this area is distorted. ZZ. The metal particles in the range of the electric furnace melted one after another, turned into hot molten iron, purified, refined. Chu Xiu closed his eyes and felt the drop of molten iron in the electric furnace. Next second, countless fine impurities are separated from the molten iron. What is left in the end is pure iron that has been purified to almost no impurities. Chu Xiu opened his eyes. The invisible electric furnace disappeared instantly. The crimson molten iron cooled rapidly, solidified, and turned into a slender iron rod. No, it's too soft. 99. Chu Xiu shook his head. Pure iron is very flexible, but just too soft. With an extremely tiny magnetic force of 4.1, a pure iron rod can be twisted into a twist with one twist. Humans' current high-strength metals, without exception, they're alloys with other elements added, such as common steel and titanium alloys. As long as you master the recipe, with my magnetic field control, forging alloys shouldn't be a problem. Chu Xiu was convinced. Finished. With a thought, the properties panel was opened. Name, Chu Xiu. System level, 2. Strength, 201 plus 50. Agility, 87 plus 55. Physical, 358 plus 142. Energy, 1183 plus 311. Talent, magnetic field control LV5. System level is too low to continue to improve. Thunder and lightning. Use slot, 6/10. Experience, 1241. F *** K. Why are other attributes added so much? The moment he saw the attribute panel, Chu Xiu was shocked. The first few upgrades to magnetic mastery, without exception, only the value of energy has been added. But this time, it is an unprecedented all-round improvement. Strength, agile, constitution, especially the physique, almost doubled from the original. In comparison, the increase in energy is not so exaggerated. But this is no exaggeration. Refers to the change in value. If you only talk about mental power, Chu Xiu feels that his mental power has more than doubled compared to before the upgrade. Is it because of my original constitution that I can't bear this energy? 39.
Chu Xiu guessed.
Although before the upgrade, his physique has reached more than 20 times that of ordinary people. It's already a very exaggerated number. But in the face of that vast and terrifying energy, it was still a little underwhelming. I couldn't bear the energy, so I improved my physique. And the increase in physique also increases speed and strength? 23. Chu Xiu draws inferences. It soon became clear why upgrading magnetic field control would increase speed and strength. Wait, why do I feel so lost? Chu Xiu frowned. If you have an ability related to your constitution before you upgrade your magnetic field control, let the energy of upgrading, no longer scattered but concentrated, all used to improve mental strength and energy values. Wouldn't you be stronger? Sure enough, it still needs to develop in all aspects. Chu Xiu couldn't help thinking.
Done.
The magnetic field is released. The whole person jumped up in an instant. After the magnetic field control was upgraded, Chu Xiu's control of the repulsive magnetic field became more precise. In addition to physical enhancement, make the repulsive magnetic field that Chu Xiu can withstand even stronger.
Boom.
Almost instantly rushed to the sky. Not only that, but after the upgrade, the way Chu Xiu flies has also changed. It's not just about panning with the traction of metal between buildings, but in a surf-like way. Step on the latitude line of the geomagnetic field and fly fast. The blue star's rotation speed reached 107,280 kilometers per hour. That's more than 400 meters per second. To know, the speed of sound is only 340 meters per second. In other words, Chu Xiu's current theoretical flight speed, the limit, can be supersonic. Certainly, this is just theory. Want a supersonic, but also consider the atmospheric resistance and other factors. Although Chu Xiu's physique has doubled, but it has not yet reached the exaggerated point of being able to go supersonic. And there is also a limit to flying with the geomagnetic field. That is, it can only fly in the direction of the planet's rotation, not in the opposite direction. But no matter what, the current flight speed is far more than I don't know how many times before. The figure of Chu Xiu quickly skimmed between buildings, faster than a helicopter. Just for a moment, they returned to the Yijiang Garden. In Yijiang Garden at this time, because of Chu Xiu's instructions, the big and small matters have been properly arranged by Li Chuyue, soldiers who survived the base. A total of 8 people, including Zhang Haoping, were temporarily placed outside the community. Stay in the security room with the stealers. As for the severely injured people, they were taken to Bai Zhao's laboratory. Have to say, science and medicine are often interlinked. Bai Zhao, who is proficient in anatomy and biology, is also handy when he is a surgeon. Saw arms, saw legs, at your fingertips. You stay here for one night, and tomorrow you will go to the arsenal with me. Chu Xiu found Zhang Haoping in by Zhao's laboratory. Zhang Haoping at this time. The position of the broken arm was sutured again and cleaned again, wrapped in a thick layer of bandages. No problem, Chief. Zhang Haoping has no objection. Seeing this, Chu Xiu walked towards the busy Bai Xiao. Survived? Bai Xiao's tone was obviously very flat. There were no mood swings either. But anyone could faintly feel that she seemed happy to see Chu Xiu back. But the next second, this feeling completely disappeared. Bring something back? Bai Xiao asked lightly. Well, 35. Chu Xiu nodded and threw the 2 small glass bottles to Bai Xiao. You know the situation, and I definitely won't be able to bring you back alive. But I took a little sample. On the left is a sample of cerebrospinal fluid, on the right is blood, and a bit of body tissue. 99. Chu Xiu pointed to 2 glass bottles and said 530 words. The glass bottle contained the sample of the master brain. Enough. Bai Xiao took the glass bottle, turned around and put it in the sample room. When you come back. Bai Xiao pointed to Zhang Haoping, who was short of arms and legs in the laboratory, and asked, Are these people useful to you? If not, can you give them to me? I want to start the first step of mechanical transformation in them. Bai Xiao said quietly. The sound did not fluctuate. It was as if Zhang Hao was an equal, just a guinea pig on the laboratory table. Bai Xiao finished. Not far away, Zhang Hao and the others looked at each other in dismay. Although he was a little afraid of what Bai Xiao said about the transformation, no one said much. Soldier. Obedience is natural. Having chosen loyalty, then everything is based on Chu Xiu's orders. It works. But if you're talking about mechanical transformation, you're putting mechanical prosthetics on them.
That's fine.
Chu Xiu replied.
Good.
35. Bai Xiao nodded. Turn around and continue working. Chu Xiu left the laboratory and walked towards the villa. When Chu Xiu left the laboratory, it was already completely dark. However, the villa was still brightly lit, and the women did not rest, waiting for Chu Xiu to return. Brother Chu Xiu is back. Chu Xiu just walked to the door of the villa, but hasn't entered yet. The little peach in the house. I sensed the tremors on the ground and hurried to the door. Due to the unfamiliarity with the layout of the villa, Tao Fu stumbled, accidentally tripped over an ornament in the corner. Be careful. 39. At a critical moment, Annie, who was discovered in the biological laboratory last time, rushed over and supported Tao Fu. Thank you, thank you. Your vibration is so soft. Tao Fu thanked Annie, and at the same time turned her ears to feel Annie's vibration seriously. You're a girl. You seem to be older than me. Should I call you sister? 35. Xiao Taofu said with certainty. Well, I'm 13. After Annie finished speaking, she looked at no one else nearby and hesitated for a while, and then leaned into Taofu's ear. Whisper. Actually, I'm 16 years old. Just looked small, but I didn't dare tell anyone else. Maybe because of the similar age. Maybe it's because Toffee is blind. Annie, who has always been cautious, actually let go of her guard against Taofu for the first time ever. I tell you, you should be careful too. Girls must protect themselves. They must be cautious. They must be stubborn, and they must not. Annie not only let go of her guard, but also tried to pass on her own Go Dao to Taofu. But it's not over yet. Chu Xiu pushed the door and walked in. Don't what? Chu Xiu came in and said, 6,699. Annie, who was whispering, froze instantly. Brother Chu Xiu. The exact opposite of Anne's performance. Taofu threw herself into Chu Xiu's arms, and finally a smile appeared on her face. You're back, Chu Xiu. 99. Hearing the movement, Li Qiuyue and Yin Yi walked over together. Saw Chu Xiu back. Both girls sighed in relief. You must be exhausted. Chu Xiu, I'll get you some hot water so you can take a good bath. 99. I'm going to get you something to eat. Immediately afterwards, the 2 women seemed to have discussed it. One went to the bathroom to drain the water, and the other went to the kitchen. Attentive look, just like the old daughter-in-law. What the hell? What happened to these 2 people? Chu Xiu wondered. At this moment, Bai Xiao walked into the villa, holding a medical tray. The air smells of ammonium. They should be trying to marry offspring with you. When passing by Chu Xiu, Bai Xiao suddenly said something. He completely ignored the two little girls next to him. What? Annie's face instantly turned red. With a scream, he glanced at Chu Xiu with a strange look and ran away quickly. Although Tao Fu did not run away, but his face also turned red, and he silently let go of the hand that was holding Chu Xiu. With a black line on his head, Chu Xiu said angrily, "No, you are an emotionless person. You still understand this? Why don't you understand? Isn't this basic biological common sense?" Bai Xiao turned his head, glanced at Chu Xiu, and walked to Xiao Taofu's side. "Hello, my name is Bai Xiao." Hello. My name is Tao Fu, Tao of Peach, Fu of Hibiscus." Hearing Bai Xiao's self-introduction, Xiao Taofu was a little overwhelmed, but still mustered the courage. He introduced himself to Bai Xiao's direction. Chu Xiu, who was hanging aside, rolled his eyes. He had already guessed what Bai Xiao wanted to do. "Hello, Toffee. May I take a sample of your blood?" 35. Sure enough, as soon as Bai Xiao opened his mouth, the familiar words appeared again. But this time it was a bit longer. "Also, I noticed that you are blind. 99. If you want to see the world again, I can design a pair of artificial eyeballs for you. The principle is to send the captured images to your brain using simulated neural signals." 39. As if afraid of scaring Taofu, Bai Xiao talked for a long time for the first time and even introduced the principle of artificial eyeballs.
What?
I don't know. I have to ask Brother Chu Xiu. Taofu was overwhelmed and had no choice but to look at Chu Xiu for help. "Remember, Taofu, no one has the right to dispose of your body except yourself, not even me," Chu Xiu said in a serious tone. "So, it's up to you to decide." 35. If you want to see again, say yes. If you don't, say no. After listening to Chu Xiu's words, Taofu seemed to understand something and nodded thoughtfully. "Sister Bai Xiao, I want to see it. I want to see blue. My mother always said the sky is blue. I want to see what blue is." And Taofu said, paused, and her little face suddenly turned red. "Also, I want to see Brother Chu Xiu. His vibration is so gentle. He must be good-looking," my mother said. "Gentle boys are good-looking." Xiao Taofu said with a blushing face. "Good." 35. Facing Xiao Taofu's touching story, Bai Xiao's face did not have any emotional fluctuations, and he was still calm. "You stretch out your arms first." After speaking, she grabbed Xiao Taofu's arm and took out the needle tube from the medical tray. A glass tube of blood was drawn. Blood drawn. Bai Xiao left the villa without looking back, and before leaving, he took away Li Hao the itch. The reason is, the pheromone extracted last time was used up. As for Chu Xiu, after Bai Xiao left, he enjoyed the treatment of a wealthy old landowner. Today, Li Qiuyue and Yin Yi are very attentive. Offer tea and water. Squeeze your shoulders and beat your back. It really made Chu Xiu relax a lot. Swept away the exhaustion left over from a fierce battle in the corpse tide today. But when the night was completely dark, when it was time to rest, Chu Xiu discovered in horror. All the hospitality. They're all just sugar-coated bombs. Under the beautiful appearance, hidden is the sinister and cunning evil purpose of the two people. The previous serving tea and water. They are all means to achieve this evil purpose. Chu Xiu, who was unaware, was unfortunately hit. Until the next morning, only found the opportunity to get out of trouble. The next day, early in the morning, Chu Xiu woke up refreshed. Although he was besieged by Li Qiuyue and Yin Yi, Chu Xiu's physique has long since changed. The joint siege of the two women, not only did he fail to defeat Chu Xiu, but he was so tired that he couldn't even get up. "Chu Xiu, wait for me. I'll go to Ranunculus Mountain with you." Li Qiuyue knew Chu Xiu's plan today. Seeing Chu Xiu going downstairs, said quickly. But as soon as he moved, he hissed in pain, and he couldn't get up at all. No way. Chu Xiu's current physique is simply terrible. More donkeys than donkeys. Okay, rest. There shouldn't be any danger there. I can go alone. Seeing that Li Qiu still has the energy, Chu Xiu thought to himself, am I being too gentle with you? Yi can't even move, yet you can still move. But Chu Xiu simply left a sentence. Ready to go downstairs. Can you pour me a glass of water? My throat is smoking. 5. At this moment, Yi's small head popped out, aggrieved, and asked hoarsely. Chu Xiu didn't know what to think. Unexpectedly, he didn't fight Yi, but nodded. Okay, I'll let Shin Mei bring it to you.
Done.
Just turned and went downstairs. After going downstairs, Chu Xiu simply ate something and left the villa. 530. In the security room, I found Zhang Haoping, whose shoulders were covered with bandages. Why, can you go? Leader. Hearing Chu Xiu's voice, Zhang Haoping, who was sleeping with his eyes closed, immediately stood up. Leader. When the other 7 soldiers heard it, they also stood up one after another. There were 2 seriously injured soldiers, leaning on the wall with their hands, trying to get up with difficulty. Okay, it's none of your business today, just rest. Chu Xiu waved to the soldiers, and after speaking, he walked straight towards Zhang Haoping. As Zhang Haoping said, the mountain is so big. The arsenal is another top-secret location. If there is no Zhang Haoping to lead the way, trying to find an arsenal in such a large mountainous area is tantamount to looking for a needle in a haystack. No problem, Chief. I just lost an arm, and it doesn't affect my walking. Facing Chu Xiu's question, Zhang Haoping said without hesitation, That's fine. Get ready, we'll go right away. Chu Xiu said resolutely. Just when Chu Xiu finished speaking, he was ready to leave. Bai Xiao pushed open the door and walked in, holding a medical tray full of medicines in his hand. You can change the medicine yourself, because Zhang Hao and others are all serious soldiers, have basic medical knowledge. So Bai Xiao just put the medical tray on the table and was ready to leave. When leaving, glancing at Chu Xiu, if you're going to the mountains, I suggest you take that little girl Annie with you.
Done.
Bai Xiao left the security room. There is no way. She has too much work, and she can't be idle for a moment. Gene medicine is not done yet. Now, the mechanical transformation has to be put on the progress again. Therefore, every time Chu Xiu saw Bai Xiao's figure, without exception, he was always busy. Bring Annie? Chu Xiu was a little confused, though. I didn't think much about it, just take it with you. It doesn't take much trouble. Another important reason is because Chu Xiu knows Bai Xiao. Bai Xiao is a typical action school, although the mouth does not say, and it also looks cold. But in fact, Bai Xiao has done detailed analysis and research on every awakened person in the community, according to the characteristics of each person. Bai Xiao has formulated a different enhancement plan for each awakened person in the community, except for Chu Xiu, because Chu Xiu didn't draw her blood. Just like Yi, although Bai Xiao didn't say anything, he secretly designed a suit for her. It is specially used to increase Yi's strength and speed. Leave the security room. Chu Xiu returned to the villa and found Annie in the small single room on the farthest corner of the first floor where the nanny lived. Have to say, this little girl doesn't know who she learned from. The character is so stubborn, too cautious. In order to reduce her presence, she was not even willing to live in a guest room with other women. Instead, I lived in the nanny's small single room. Chu Xiu has no doubts. If I hadn't forced her to stay in the villa, I guess this girl would be like Bai Xiao. Find a place to live outside. Will go out with me later. What? When Chu Xiu found Annie and said the next arrangement, little Annie was dumbfounded. Even after saying 3 words of me, Annie didn't jump out the next sentence. Leave me alone. Wash up quickly. Look at your hair. It's messy like a chicken coop. Chu Xiu frowned. I don't know who this little girl is guarding. After joining the villa for so long, he still wears a messy short hair. Obviously has a beautiful face, but all day long he is sloppy. I tried my best to reduce my presence. 55. Being named by Chu Xiu, Annie couldn't continue to live, so she could only do it obediently.
Soon.
The old man got the helicopter ready. When Chu Xiu brought Annie out, Zhang Haoping was already waiting by the helicopter. Leader. Seeing Chu Xiu, Zhang Haoping hurriedly shouted, 95. Chu Xiu nodded and entered the helicopter. Go straight to the driver's seat. Old Zhang too. Let me drive today and you'll be watching. 35. What? Old Zhang was stunned for a moment and said tentatively, Boss, this is a military helicopter. Have you ever driven it before?
No.
Chu Xiu shook his head, but I've seen you drive many times. How hard can it be with just a few joysticks? In the end, Lao Zhangtu still never beat Chu Xiu. Just move out of the seat. Sitting nervously in the passenger seat. But it turns out, Chu Xiu's learning ability is still good.
Getting started for the first time.
The helicopter took off successfully. Although the flight was not very smooth, it still managed to fly in the direction of the mountain. Chu Xiu flew for a long time until the addiction of flying a plane was completely over. Give up the driver's seat to the old man. Back to the cabin. Chu Xiu saw little Annie, standing on tiptoe, head up, and leaning against the porthole of the helicopter. Big bright eyes. Flickering with curiosity and surprise. Have you never been on a plane? Chu Xiu walked to her side. When she came back from the biological laboratory last time, Annie didn't take a plane but came back by car. Well, it's the first time I've been on a plane when I've grown so big. Annie nodded. His eyes kept looking out the window.
Sudden.
She seemed to notice something. Chu. Chief, is that where we're going? Annie pointed to a mountainous area ahead and asked, Is it here? Chu Xiu looked at the porthole, followed the direction Annie pointed, and glanced out. His face changed instantly. Through the porthole of the helicopter. In the distance, you can see a large black-gray mountain, and there is not a shred of green in the entire mountain area. Look far away. The whole mountain seems to be withered and withered. Is this Sangshan? Chu Xiu frowned. The stealer said before that when it came last time, the vegetation here was so dense that it was difficult for helicopters to land. But now, in just a few days, the whole mountain has turned into a dilapidated scene. Even Zhang Haoping was a little unsure. Thought I was going in the wrong direction. After careful comparison of the surrounding terrain, it was determined that the mountain in front was empty. It's Sushan, but I don't know why it's like this. 35. Zhang Haoping said. As the helicopter flew closer and closer, the scene of the mountain is also more clearly reflected in the eyes of everyone. The trees on the mountain were still there, but they were all withered, turning into a terrifying gray-black appearance. The leaves are almost all gone. Only the bare branches are left, dancing with claws on that tooth. And Chu Xiu also noticed that a strange black vine can be seen everywhere in the whole mountain. There's something wrong with these vines. Watch out later. 35. Chu Xiu was keenly aware of the abnormality of these vines. If nothing else, the changes in the mountain should be caused by these vines. Chu Xiu said solemnly, has entered the mountain range. Next, Zhang Haoping began to guide the way. To the northeast, if I remember correctly, the factory is in the middle of those two mountains. 99. Although the mountain has changed a lot. However, the terrain did not change, and Zhang Haoping quickly pointed out the location of the arsenal. It is good. Old Zhang nodded. While descending the height, while flying in the direction pointed by Zhang Haoping. DDD. The moment the helicopter entered the mountains. Inside the helicopter. Suddenly, a piercing alarm sounded. There are also multiple warning lights on the console. Immediately afterwards, the helicopter began to sway uncontrollably.
Chief.
39. There is a strong magnetic field here. The old man's wrinkled face showed horror. The helicopter has started to descend uncontrollably. No matter how he controls the joystick, to no avail. Hurry up, I see it. In fact, there is no need to remind the old man, Chu Xiu, who is the master of the magnetic field. As soon as you enter this area, you can feel the drastic changes in the geomagnetic field. I don't know why. The geomagnetic field in the ranunculus area is seriously disturbed. A turbulent magnetic field will affect all electronic products that enter it. similar to the legendary Bermuda Triangle. However, the magnetic field interference of this level of police is nothing to the current Chu Xiu. As long as Chu Xiu wants to, he could create a far stronger disturbance at any time. You continue to fly yours. Leave the magnetic field to me. Chu Xiu finished. Close your eyes. Almost instantly, the chaotic magnetic field disappeared and returned to normal. The siren disappeared, and the helicopter resumed smooth flight again. The old man breathed a sigh of relief. After solving the interference problem, the helicopter quickly flew to the place pointed by Zhang Haoping, the call between the two mountains. A clear man-made open space appears below the helicopter. There should be a parking lot down there, or a tarmac or something. 95. The old man looked down and said uncertainly, not sure why. It was because this open space was covered with a strange black vine. The vines are intricate. Horizontally, completely cover this area. Even the concrete floor is cracked by these vines. Flat ground becomes uneven. Old man, there is an open space over there. Little Annie found an open space without vines and quickly reminded. Leader, then I'll stop there? 99. The old man finished speaking. Just as he was about to descend, Chu Xiu shook his head. Don't go down. There should be enough fuel. You just hang in the air and wait. 5. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, directly release the repulsive magnetic field. Wrapping Annie and Zhang Haoping with a repulsive magnetic field, taking them both, jumped out of the plane. Ah! Little Annie, who suddenly fell freely, was startled. Zhang Haoping didn't say anything. As a veteran, he skydived without knowing how many times he had jumped. Only, it was the first time without a parachute. Uh-huh. Little Annie called halfway. Suddenly, I found myself falling down, abruptly slowed down. Flowers. It felt like being stuck in an invisible quagmire, going from free fall to slow descent. Annie guessed right away. This is the handwriting of Chu Xiu. Can you still let others fly? While excited, even the leader forgot to shout. But Chu Xiu doesn't care about these falsehoods either. Don't think about it, your body can't handle it. Chu Xiu guessed Annie's thoughts. Immediately shattered her fantasy. The diamagnetic flight requires a lot of physical fitness. Chu Xiu is better when used on himself. If used on others, little attention. Two magnetic fields that repel each other may squeeze people into patties.
But a simple free fall is fine.
Under the wrapping of the repulsive magnetic field, the three slowly descended. Point 0. The place where they landed was the only open space that was not covered by vines. It smells bad. As soon as she landed, Annie wrinkled her nose. She smelled a strange smell. It's like some animal has been dead for a long time. Rancid odor. Boss, this is the apron, and the real arsenal is still inside the mountain. After Zhang Haoping landed, after checking the surrounding environment, he said solemnly, in the mountains? Chu Xiu bent down and touched the ground. Through the ability to control the soil, I immediately noticed that one of the two surrounding mountains was hollowed out. There is a huge space inside. In the early years, when we had a falling out with a bear, didn't we dig deep and store food? This arsenal was built at that time. It has been used to this day. 35. Zhang Haoping briefly introduced the background of the factory. Strictly speaking, this is not just an arsenal but a nuclear bunker. Just as Chu Xiu was talking to Zhang Haoping, a breeze came. The black vines on the square moved slightly, as if being blown by the wind. Make a salsa sound. Chu Xiu, I feel like something is watching us. Little Annie stood where she was. His expression was a little nervous. She faintly noticed that there was something in the dead wood behind her, looking at herself. Have it? Chu Xiu released magnetic energy and probed a 1-kilometer radius. Except for the black vines all over the mountains and plains. Nothing was found on the mountain, although magnetic induction found nothing. But Chu Xiu did not let his guard down. Come on, just be careful. Chu Xiu hasn't spoken yet. Suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Little Annie looked over curiously. Chu Xiu didn't speak. He noticed that the black vines around were moving.
Or,
moving. Move very, very slowly. It was so slow that Chu Xiu doubted whether he had been delusional. Never mind. Try it and you'll know. 35. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, the magnetic field energy spreads out. But in this deep mountain and old forest, there is really not much metal to control. At least not like in the city. Movement controls dozens of tons, or even hundreds of tons of metal. It's better in the city. That being said, but this difficulty is not difficult for Chu Xiu. Mind a move. The magnetic field energy immediately formed an invisible electric furnace around it. In an instant, terrible high temperature again. The air twisted. Under this terrible heat, nearby vines almost instantly dried out of moisture. Then it was ignited. Boom! The moment the vines were lit, a weird scene happened. Salsa. On the square, the dense black vines seemed to feel pain. Suddenly riot. It was only moving slowly before.
Now,
These vines are like countless little black snakes, wielding thin whips, wriggling, attacked from all directions. The dense vines twisted, and some were still intertwined, making the scalp tingle. These plants move. Annie was startled. Zhang Haoping also showed a shocked expression. He quickly took out his pistol, but after aiming for a long time, he didn't know which direction to shoot, because there are vines all around. From the moment they landed, they were already surrounded by vines.
or,
From the moment they entered the border of the mountain, they have been surrounded. It wasn't that I was wrong. Chu Xiu is not surprising at all. The movement of these vines, on the contrary, proved that what he saw just now was not an illusion. ZZ. Dense vines have surrounded them, like they are not afraid of heat, not afraid of flames. One after another, they got into Chu Xiu's electric furnace. Although the furnace is invisible, but Chu Xiu didn't believe that these plants couldn't feel the heat, but they rushed in one after another.
boom.
As soon as the vine enters the range of the electric furnace, baked dry in an instant.
Ignite.
But this still can't change. There are more and more vines, attacking from all directions. How to do? This stuff seems to be getting more and more. 99. Annie hid behind Chu Xiu. The high temperature of the electric furnace made her cheeks turn red. Chief, when we came, it seemed that the whole mountain was overgrown with this vine. 35. Zhang Haoping's face was also a little solemn. On the helicopter, everyone saw that all the mountains and plains were full of this kind of weird black vines. If those vines were all around, light buried, all three of Chu Xiu could be buried. I know. Chu Xiu also knew that these vines should never be killed. These vines are supposed to be branches. Their taproot is not here. The reason why Chu Xiu is so sure. It's because the furnace has burned so many vines, and he has no experience at all. So Chu Xiu can conclude. These vines, because it's just a branch of some main body. Unless you find this subject and kill it, no matter how many vines you kill, it won't help. These vines are just a bit more numerous and not too threatening. Let's go straight to the arsenal. 39. Because of inexperience, Chu Xiu was too lazy to consume these vines.
Done.
The range of magnetic field diffusion is directly multiplied several times. In the next second, sentry towers, barbed wire, and street signs will be distributed around the arsenal, or even 1 kilometer away. Wait for the metal to be attracted by the magnetic field. Not just these. There are countless tiny metal particles in the soil, ores in the mountains.
Was also sucked in.
You stand behind me and follow closely. Chu Xiu ordered. Zhang Haoping is just an ordinary person. Although Annie is an awakener, her abilities are rather special, and she has no fighting power. After sucking the metal over, Chu Xiu directly cut off the magnetic field of the electric heating furnace. Salsa. The instant the heat disappeared, the dense vines, like countless black snakes, rushed over. But the next second, the metal manipulated by Chu Xiu turned into steel knives with blades and no handles. Make a circle. Spin up fast. Just like a harvester, the rotating steel knives cut all the incoming vines into pieces. The cut of the severed vine secreted a dark red strange juice. Smells like highly decomposed biological carcasses. It smells so bad. Annie finally knew what the smell was. Under the open circuit of a rotating steel knife. Chu Xiu 3. Continue walking towards the entrance of the arsenal. The vines are still attacking. But as Chu Xiu said, they are nothing special except that they can move and have a large number. It's just a bunch of plants after all. It can't stop the opening of the steel knives at all. Along a mountain road, the three of Chu Xiu soon came to the entrance of the arsenal. The so-called entrance. In fact, it is a tunnel entrance large enough to accommodate 2 trucks side by side. It's just that in the tunnel, there is a thick door of dozens of tons, the kind that can resist the attack of mushroom eggs. Hey, the vines can't come. Before reaching the entrance of the tunnel, Annie looked back, surprised to find those weird black vines couldn't come. Salsa, the dense vines, all stopped. Invariably, they stopped at the entrance of the arsenal, about 15 meters away, as if afraid of something. For point 1, could it be that these plants are still intelligent? Chu Xiu is a little strange. Not even afraid of heat and flames. What else could frighten these vines? Chief, there may be danger in the factory. Do we still have to go in? Zhang Haoping is indeed a battle-hardened veteran. He also keenly sensed something was wrong.
Asked.
Come in, of course. Chu Xiu said, without hesitation. Come here. You can't just return without success because of some troubles, right?
Keep going.
Enter the tunnel. The heavy door was pushed open by Chu Xiu's magnetic field. The sight in front of you. Incredibly clean. There was nothing in the tunnel to the arsenal. No vines, no weeds, not even blood, clean as if the apocalypse had never happened. A tunnel that can accommodate 2 trucks in parallel is extremely empty.
Da.
Very quiet inside the tunnel. It was so quiet that the footsteps of the 3 of Chu Xiu could be echoed in the empty tunnel. What? In an eerily quiet environment, Annie screamed suddenly. It's like seeing something terrible. Chu Xiu. There is. Anne's tone was very frightened, but turning around, but immediately returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. He followed Chu Xiu calmly. Annie? Chu Xiu frowned. He turned and looked at Annie seriously. Zhang Haoping also looked over in confusion. What? What's the matter? Why are you all looking at me? Annie looked bewildered, as if the scream just now wasn't from her. You just screamed and called my name. 5. And then he said something was up. Chu Xiu recounted Annie what you just said. How is this possible? I've been following behind you and haven't said a word. Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Annie looked even more at a loss. Yes. Chu Xiu frowned and did not continue to ask. The 3 continued to walk into the tunnel. 23. Go halfway. Annie and Zhang Haoping suddenly stopped. He turned around and looked at Chu Xiu with a very strange look. What's wrong? Chu Xiu looked at the 2 suspiciously. You, leader. Zhang Haoping and Annie have weird expressions. He hesitated whether to tell what happened just now. Chief, what did you just say you saw? 35. In the end, it was Zhang Haoping who spoke up. What? I didn't say anything. This time, it was Chu Xiu's turn to be stunned. He clearly didn't say anything. Why are Zhang Haoping and Annie so sure that they have spoken? And, if you really said something, why can't I remember it now? You forgot. But what did you just say? Annie was puzzled. The strange world made the atmosphere unwittingly become terrifying. In an empty tunnel. I don't know which direction is blowing a cool breeze, which makes people feel a chill from the soles of their feet. What did I just say? Chu Xiu realized something was wrong and asked quickly. Chief, you just said 3 words. You said I see and it was gone. Zhang Haoping said seriously. Serious expression. It could be seen that everything he said was true. I see. Chu Xiu fell into deep thought. I will not say these 3 words for no reason. Now there are 2 possibilities.
Or.
Even if he didn't speak, Annie didn't speak just now. Everyone just had a collective hallucination.
Or.
Just like Annie, I really saw something and said something. But I don't know why I forgot. Zhang Haoping, tell me every action I made just now? Chu Xiu turned his questioning eyes to Zhang Haoping. The two forgotten events. Once happened to Annie. Happened to myself once. Only Zhang Haoping stayed out of the incident twice, and he should know what happened. Really? Zhang Haoping nodded. Boss, you seem to have discovered something just now, and suddenly glanced to the left. Then you said, I see. It's gone after that. Zhang Haoping recalled. Is there any other action? When I lost this part of my memory, was there any movement? Chu Xiu asked. By the way, you turned your head. When you said those 3 words, you just turned around. Zhang Haoping recalled carefully. Turn your head. Chu Xiu was even more puzzled in his heart. Regardless of whether I've spoken or seen before, at least now, at this moment, there is nothing in magnetic induction. In the entire tunnel, there are only 3 people, himself, Annie, and Zhang Haoping. Eyes can be deceiving, but magnetic induction can't always lie, right? Go on. Next, whoever among us, whatever we see. 5. Don't look away. 33. Immediately, in the shortest words, describe what you saw. Chu Xiu thought of a way to see if he could break the curse of oblivion. The 3 moved on. But this time it was smooth sailing, and nothing weird happened again. Go through the tunnel. Successfully entered the arsenal. What comes into view is a row of production areas with different specifications. The arsenal is huge, almost hollowed out most of the mountain. The production area alone is divided into a number of different blocks. There are specialized production of bullets and shells. Have the production of firearms. There is even an assembly shop for light armored vehicles. The only strange thing is that there is no one in such a large factory. Not only no one, not even zombies, not even blood on the ground. But on the production line, there are parts and components everywhere, as well as some semi-finished weapons that are half-produced. It also proved that this is not an abandoned factory. At least until the end, there is definitely someone here. I just don't know why these people disappeared, not even the corpses. The equipment is in perfect condition. The material is also sufficient. The factory has an independent power supply system, and as long as there are enough people, work can be started at any time. Zhang Haoping inspected each production workshop one by one. It turned out that the situation in the factory was much better than expected. Everything inside was undamaged and intact. Like the people inside. Disappeared in an instant. No zombies. There are no monsters. So the equipment can be preserved so well. Where is the warehouse? Take me to the warehouse. After checking the production workshop, Chu Xiu plans to go to the warehouse by 530. Continue to the inside of the factory. There are 6 warehouses in total. 2 of them are places to store finished products. The other 4 house the raw materials for the production of weapons. Chu Xiu casually opened the door of a warehouse, and as soon as the door opened, the strong smell of gun oil rushed toward him. In the warehouse, it's boxes of guns. All are the latest new rifles. Next to the boxes of firearms, there were also 4 vehicles covered with tarpaulins. Through the modeling of oilcloth, it can be discerned that this should be a vehicle, such as an armored personnel carrier. Leader. Chu Xiu just opened the tarpaulin. Zhang Haoping's voice suddenly came from behind. There are monsters.
Dolls.
An octopus-like face. Wearing arsenal uniforms. Zhang Haoping spoke very fast. Using the simplest words, he quickly described what he saw. But when Chu Xiu turned his head, but saw nothing. No biological magnetic field was sensed either. And, at the moment when Chu Xiu turned his head, Zhang Haoping just happened to blink. In an instant, Zhang Haoping's voice stopped abruptly. His face returned to dullness. What's the matter, Chief? Seeing Chu Xiu turn back, Zhang Haoping looked dazed. He felt that he had forgotten something, and he couldn't remember it. Oh, by the way, I should have been introducing this vehicle just now. This is the latest VN 2-wheeled armored vehicle. It is equipped with a 30mm machine gun turret and a 7.62 heavy machine gun. Looking at the shape, it should also be equipped with 73C anti-tank missiles. 35. Zhang Haoping was still introducing several vehicles in the warehouse that were covered with tarpaulins. Chu Xiu was not listening at all. Uncle, Annie also looked at Zhang Haoping with a strange look. Zhang Haoping was slightly taken aback. Then he responded quickly. Boss, did I forget something too? Zhang Haoping looked at Chu Xiu. 35. Chu Xiu nodded. But the point now is not what Zhang Haoping has forgotten, but his appearance changes. Uncle, you are suddenly many years old, and your hair is gray. Annie reminded. What? Zhang Haoping was taken aback. Then, look around and see if there's a mirror. Chu Xiu manipulated a metal plate and used a magnetic field to polish the metal into a mirror surface. Thank you, Chief. Zhang Haoping took the metal plate and looked at the mirror. His face changed instantly. I saw the figure in the mirror, with gray hair and even white beard. There are also many wrinkles on the face. This is me. Zhang Haoping was shocked. Although he often goes out on duty and has weathered the storm, he appears to be older than his real age. But at most, it looks like he is in his 50s. Self in the mirror. If you say that you are 70 years old, I am afraid some people will believe it. Are you feeling uncomfortable right now? Chu Xiu asked with a solemn expression. Uncomfortable. Hearing Chu Xiu's question, Zhang Haoping tried to walk, but only 2 steps away. Zhang Haoping realized that not only did he look old, but his physical fitness also declined. Leader. I seem to be getting really old. I can't walk, my joints are stiff, and my muscles are weak. Zhang Haoping stopped. He felt like his joints were rusting. Extremely rigid. Muscles are also atrophied and weak. It's a monster. A monster that can absorb human vitality. 99. Chu Xiu said solemnly. The scariest now. Not a sudden forgetting. It's not that Zhang Haoping suddenly grows old, but from the beginning to the end, no abnormality was found in his magnetic field induction. Inside the huge arsenal, there are only 3 of them, and apart from that, there is not even a mouse. This guy is very good at hiding. I can't even detect my magnetic field sensing. And if nothing else, it should have some sort of ability to affect human memory. Even if I saw it by accident, just look away or just blink as you did. You will instantly forget its existence, its appearance, and even the fact that you saw it. According to the strange events that happened after entering the arsenal, Chu Xiu boldly inferred. There is even a possibility, 35. The 3 of us have seen it more than once, but we've all forgotten it. At the end, Chu Xiu added another conjecture. What? It's true. Don't scare me. The cautious little Annie was the least timid. Listen to what Chu Xiu has to say. Suddenly, a chill surged up from the little feet to the Tianling guy and shivered. Then what to do? Isn't this thing unsolvable? 35. Zhang Haoping asked. Can't see, can't touch, and has an unheard of attack method, stealing life force. Such a monster. He really couldn't think of any way to deal with it. No, this thing shouldn't be as powerful as you think. Chu Xiu shook his head and looked around. Didn't find it. 99. We've been in for so long, and you're the only one attacked. 99. Chu Xiu said solemnly. Because I'm the only normal person. And injured. Zhang Haoping immediately understood what Chu Xiu meant. What's the meaning? Why can't I understand? What does this have to do with injuries? Annie didn't want to understand. Annie, why aren't boa constrictors like venomous snakes? How about evolving fangs? Chu Xiu looked back at Annie and asked back. Because I don't need it. And seems to have a strong interest in animals. Chu Xiu answered immediately. The boa constrictor is so powerful that it can entangle its prey to death. Annie finished. Seems to understand something. I understand. The reason why this monster has such a strong concealment ability. Because its body is very fragile. 35. Affect our memory. Let us forget its existence and only protect itself. Annie figured it out. If that monster is really powerful, it can kill everyone at the beginning. Not till now. Only Zhang Haoping was attacked. But even if we know this, it's useless. 99. Can't find it. And then had another question. Do not. It works. Chu Xiu seems to have found something. His eyes looked around. It ended up on 2 piles of black dust in the corner of the warehouse. I've killed 2 of this thing as we speak. When Chu Xiu said this sentence, looks a little weird, because in his mind, there is no memory of monsters or killing monsters. But look at the prompt record of the system, Li Hao. Not only kill tips. And there are 2. You killed the D-level monsters, Forgotten Silence. EXP plus 1000. You killed the D-level monsters, Forgotten Silence. EXP plus 1000. Chu Xiu didn't even know what the monster looked like and how he killed it. But here's the record. The system prompt cannot be faked. In other words, during the conversation just now, the 3 of them should have seen these 2 monsters at the same time. Then, kill these 2 monsters by yourself. But when the monster dies, everyone lost this part of the memory at the same time. Only through the system's prompt record, Chu Xiu finally knew the name and level of the monster.
Wheat.
Forget the silence. Is that the name of the monster? Chu Xiu flipped through the system's prompt records. It's now confirmed. A mysterious monster is a monster, and not just one end. At this time, Chu Xiu suddenly remembered that when Zhang Haoping described the monster's appearance before, said they were wearing arsenal uniforms. Are they alive? How many people are there before the end? Chu Xiu hurriedly asked questions. Now it's all fully automated production, and there are not many places that require manpower. Counting the soldiers stationed, there are probably 500 or 600 people. Zhang Haoping recalled his previous experience of visiting the arsenal. Because it's not wartime, there are not many guards in the factory. 500 or 600. Chu Xiu shook his head. The number of monsters should not be so exaggerated. At this time, Chu Xiu suddenly noticed that there was a pile of black dust at the door of the warehouse. I killed another one. Chu Xiu hurriedly opened the system prompt record. But I found that there are still 2 kill prompts. Chu Xiu instantly understood. The silence at the door did not kill him. But Annie has no weapons, and with her fighting power, it is impossible to kill a monster with her bare hands. The only possibility is Zhang Haoping. Wait. Why do I have the gun in my hand? 3 bullets missing. 33. Sure enough, Zhang Haoping suddenly discovered that the pistol in the holster around his waist. Do not know when. It actually appeared on his only 530 left hand. And there are 3 less bullets. I killed a monster? Zhang Haoping responded. Although there is no relevant memory in his mind, the black ashes at the door, and the bullets that disappeared from the gun chamber. It's enough to deduce what's going on. Can you kill with a gun? So weak. Chu Xiu was a little surprised. Although I had long guessed that this monster's body was very fragile, I didn't expect it to be so fragile. An ordinary person can kill with a pistol. You know, this is a D-rank monster. The existence of the same level of police as the limb receiver fragment encountered before. When I watched a biological documentary before, I saw this sentence. If a creature has evolved the ultimate concealment ability, then it doesn't need any additional means of defense. Little Annie stood beside Chu Xiu and heard Chu Xiu's doubts.
Could not help saying.
Because not being discovered is the most effective means of defense. Chu Xiu understands what Annie wants to express, Deb, so he adds. Right. That's what it means. 95. Little Annie nodded. This kind of monster called Oblivion Silence, its concealment ability has undoubtedly reached its peak. Therefore, it doesn't matter how fragile its body is, because people can't see it at all. Even if you see it, it will be forgotten in a blink of an eye, since this monster can be killed by a gun. Then from now on, each of you has a gun. As long as you see it, don't hesitate to shoot. 99.
Chu Xiu said.
Magnetically open weapon chests in the warehouse. He threw the 2 new-style rifles to Annie and Zhang Haoping respectively. The bullet is in the warehouse next door. You can get it yourself. 35. While throwing the gun, Chu Xiu said. Although the magnetic field induction cannot perceive the existence of Forgotten Silence, but to the surrounding environment, it has already been scanned clearly. But I won't use it. After all, Annie is still young and has little strength. Not to mention shooting, just catching the rifle, his hand sank, and he almost failed to catch it. Little girl, this is the insurance, this is the bolt. 3 o'clock, you know? At the critical moment, Zhang Haoping stood up. As a veteran, he is still a veteran with a high rank. Teaching new recruits how to use a gun, he has done this many times. Work hard in 2 or 3. It taught Annie how to shoot. Although it is not accurate, it should be no problem to shoot at close range. Just when Annie learned to use a gun and went to the warehouse next door to get bullets with Zhang Haoping, Chu Xiu asked in his heart, "System, is there a limit on the number of bound subordinates?" 99. Unlimited. Bind Annie. Bind Zhang Haoping. After getting a positive answer from the system, Chu Xiu decisively bound the two. Not for anything else, but for the experience points of killing silent for these two. After all, silence is 1,000 experience.
Ding.
Zhang Haoping successfully bound.
Ding.
Annie's binding failed. Loyalty is not up to standard. What? Annie's loyalty hasn't reached 80 yet? Zhang Haoping's loyalty, Chu Xiu knew, was a little higher than that of the Steelers. Reached 92. But little Annie. It has not yet reached the minimum standard for binding subordinates. What is Anne's loyalty? Chu Xiu said solemnly. 79. The mechanical sound of the system sounded. Gave an awkward answer. At first, Chu Xiu thought that this little girl has 2 hearts and her loyalty is very low. Unexpectedly, it was only a little bit worse. It's still too much. I guess he's also wary of me.
Chu Xiu guessed.
But it's actually not wrong. Anne's loyalty is not enough. The reason is because she is too cautious, too stubborn, and too wary. Chu Xiu has just finished binding.
Bang. Bang. Bang.
A few gunshots were suddenly heard from the warehouse next door. Then, the system beep pops out. Zhang Haoping kills D-level monsters. Oblivion silence. EXP plus 1,000. Thanks for being bound. Chu Xiu thought to himself, if it weren't for the fast binding, the 1,000 experience would be gone.
Done.
Chu Xiu is about to leave the warehouse. Yu Guang glanced away. Suddenly, I found a dark shadow standing in the corner. Never found it before anyway. Magnetic field induction is no different. And this black shadow can only be observed through the corner of the eye. Once you move your sight, you can't see anything. Well known. A person's field of vision is limited. Only the area where the line of sight is concentrated is clear, the rest are blurred. The more the edge of the line of sight, the more blurred. If you look at things with your peripheral vision, not only can you not see clearly, but even what you see is distorted. But only in this way. Only Chu Xiu could observe the shadow. Only through peripheral vision? Chu Xiu thought for a while. Focus your eyes on the blank wall and slowly move towards the shadow with an unfocused, blurry peripheral vision. With the slow movement of the line of sight, the shadow gradually emerged from the corner of Chu Xiu's eyes, shifted to the center of the line of sight. But it hasn't disappeared. Once observed, will it not disappear as long as you don't blink or look away? 35. Chu Xiu analyzed the reason. He looked at the monster in front of him. Until then, Chu Xiu finally saw the true appearance of forgotten silence. It's not accurate to say that, because Chu Xiu must have seen it more than once before. Just forget it. It is the same as what Zhang Haoping described before. Silence is a humanoid monster. Tall and big. Wearing uniforms from the arsenal. The head is a bit like the head of an octopus, with sunken eye sockets like 2 black holes. In deep eyes. A pair of weird blue eyeballs were staring at Chu Xiu. 66. Silence made no sound. But Chu Xiu felt that there was some kind of invisible energy in his body that was slowly being absorbed by it. Is this your attack method? Just by looking at you, you can absorb my life force? Chu Xiu stood motionless. Let the silence suck your life force. In the process of absorbing, silence became stronger and stronger, and the speed of absorbing life force turned out to be faster. 66-35. Silent even took the initiative to walk over to Chu Xiu. But Chu Xiu remained motionless. Let the silence suck. It's just that his eyes are cold, staring at the slowly approaching silence. One by one strange. Face to face. It turns out that you're absorbing people's vitality through eye contact, Chu Xiu assured. While speaking, the system has already scanned the silent minus information. And show it. Forget the silence. D-class monster. You can only perceive the presence of silence from the corner of your eye. When you look at the silence, your life will fade away like a candle in the wind. When you look away, you will forget everything about silence. Description. Silence is fear. A passing ghost, a creaking noise under the bed, a wooden door suddenly closed by the wind, a hard-to-detect, yet real nightmare. Do not know why. The system's description of silence is very detailed, and there is even a separate introduction. But Chu Xiu just glanced at it briefly. Information is turned off. Because Chu Xiu knew that he only wanted to kill the silence in front of him. So all the memories from just now until now will disappear instantly. I will forget the appearance of silence. Will forget the results scanned by the system. Will forget how I killed silence. More important, it is to forget the way in which one sees the silence. I have to admit, your existence is really a headache. Chu Xiu looked at the silence coldly. Having absorbed the vitality of silence for so long, Chu Xiu is like a normal person, without the slightest difference. Zhang Haoping was only sucked for a second or two. The whole person seems to be more than 10 years old. But Chu Xiu, standing still and being sucked by the silence for so long, didn't even turn his hair white. Silence seems to have discovered this too. Chu Xiu's vitality is like a vast ocean. No matter how much you can inhale.
Hiss.
Silent opened his mouth. A low-frequency roar that cannot be heard by the human ear. Next second, in the corner of Chu Xiu's eyes, more and more black shadows appeared one after another. But Chu Xiu didn't turn his head. Not even looking away. Still staring at the silence in front of him. Until a weird creaking sound from the warehouse gradually spread to the warehouse. A smile finally appeared on Chu Xiu's face. And that voice. It sounds like the movement of metal deformation. Have you had enough? Look around. You have nowhere to hide, Shabi. Chu Xiu showed a cold smile.
Done.
Raised a flash of lightning. The silence that bullets can kill, of course, can't stop the violent power of thunder. Just for a moment, lightning pierced through the silent body. Boom. Killed silence. It turned into a mass of black ashes in a very short time. Even the clothes turned to ashes. As for Chu Xiu, the moment he killed silent, his smile disappeared and his eyes became blank. When did I kill one? Looking at the pile of ashes in front of him, Chu Xiu's eyes were blank. But next second,
as if to see something,
Chu Xiu's eyes instantly became cold again. I guess I must have said it before, but it doesn't matter if I say it again. You have nowhere to hide. Chu Xiu, who was dazed and ignorant 1 second, turned cold in the next.
Done.
Without hesitation, there was another flash of lightning. A silence that had just entered the warehouse. Before he could make any move, he was struck by lightning and instantly turned into a pile of ashes. You killed the D-level monsters. Forgotten silence. EXP plus 1000. Accompanied by a beep. Chu Xiu's eyes became blank again. When did I kill another one? Hey? Why should I say again? Chu Xiu looked puzzled. He glanced, but noticed that the warehouse wall was covered with a thin layer of metal plate at some point. Metal plate. Densely engraved with information. Forgotten silence. You can see them out of the corner of your eye. 4 flowers. Don't blink. Don't look away. Look at silence, and it will absorb life. Piece of information. Repeating. Densely engraved with metal plates. And the metal plate, like a natural half, covered the entire wall. More than just warehouses. If you go out and take a look, you'll find the entire arsenal, every wall, every conspicuous position. It's all covered with this engraved metal plate. There are even silent gravure images left on some metal panels. Silent message. Completely recorded on these metal gates. Just look at it, and all the forgotten information will be imprinted in the mind again in the form of words. Hee, I guess I must have said it just now. 0. You have nowhere to hide. 35. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, he locked the silence with his peripheral vision again. Then, a flash of lightning flew past. At the same time, Zhang Haoping and Annie in another warehouse apparently also saw the information on the metal plate. Bang, 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 bang. Immediately, gunfire erupted in the arsenal. Although when killing silence, all will lose all memory of silence. In a brief moment of confusion, but as long as he glanced at the wall, the confusion disappeared, replaced by a ruthless pursuit. A species that has evolved its concealment capabilities to the extreme can indeed abandon all means of defense. 35. But when that stealth ability doesn't work.
Ah.
Chu Xiu smiled. That's all about giving experience. Along with the sound of gunfire and thunder, Chu Xiu's experience points are increasing by 1,000 and 1,000. Memory may disappear, but experience doesn't. I do not know how long it has been, because everyone is losing their memory. Everyone felt like they were fighting silence for the first time. It was the first that killed silence. This situation continued until Chu Xiu could no longer see any dark shadows in his peripheral vision. The gunfire stopped. Strangeness. Annie looked at the rifle in her hand and scratched her head. Did we just fight something?
Sean.
That's right. A monster called Oblivion Silence. These metal plates on the wall, I should have stayed. 35. When Chu Xiu killed the last silence, he also lost his memory. But see the metal plate on the wall. I understood what happened. Although Chu Xiu himself can't remember when he left a message on the wall. But one thing is for sure. That is, the previous self must have discovered the characteristics of silence. And before forgetting, manipulating the magnetic field, covering metal plates in all conspicuous places. In the form of text, the characteristics of silence, the way of attacking silence, how to find silence, etc. are all left. If you don't do this, it's no use knowing your weaknesses. Because when he turned his head, let alone weakness, he even forgot what silence was. Just look away, and you lose all memory of silence. May 4-7. If you look at it, you will be sucked out of vitality. This monster is too scary, isn't it? Zhang Haoping came over, reading the information on the metal plate as he walked.
Cannot help but sigh.
Have we really killed this monster? Will there be monsters hiding? Annie couldn't help but question after reading the message on the wall. Unimportant. As long as the information I left is still there, it doesn't matter if there are fish that slip through the net. Silence can't hide itself. They're no threat. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, his mind moved, and he opened the system's reminder record. I don't know if I don't see it. I'm shocked when I see it. A whole page of information. All tips to kill the silence. There's so much silence. Chu Xiu only knew that he killed Jingjing, but he didn't know that he had killed so many. Simply flipped, there are 20 or 30 tips. You must know that every time you kill a silence, it is 1,000 experience points. So, how much experience do I have now? Chu Xiu quickly opened his own properties panel. The Discovery Experience column is impressively displayed. Current EXP, 32,415. Originally only had about 2,000 experience points, but in a blink of an eye, it exceeded 30,000. The most annoying thing is these 30,000 experience. It feels like it was picked up for nothing. Chu Xiu smiled. Because there is no relevant battle memory in my mind. So it feels like these 30,000 experiences are like pie falling from the sky. Picked up in white. Just as Chu Xiu checked the prompt record. The other side. The vines that stayed on the periphery of the arsenal suddenly moved. It was almost when Chu Xiu and the three of them killed the last one and forgotten the silence. Originally, it would not be close to the vines within 15 meters of the arsenal. Group moves. Intricate vines, like twisting thin snakes, quickly poured into the entrance tunnel of the arsenal. Dense vines. Climb the road full of tunnels.
Wall. Dome.
A tunnel that could have accommodated 2 trucks in parallel. It's clogged with water. Salsa. The salsa of the vines rubbing against the wall. Echoes all the time in the tunnel. Inside the factory. Chu Xiu noticed the strangeness and suddenly turned his head to look at the entrance. Those vines outside came in, Chu Xiu said solemnly. Huh? 99. Aren't they near the arsenal? Annie was stunned for a moment, then reacted. Because we killed all the monsters in the factory? 35. Annie understood. Actually, this is good news. Because this represents the silence in the factory, which has been killed. I was in the warehouse just now and saw two, like napalm or something. Go get it out and put it into Lao Zhangto's plane later. Chu Xiu turned around and instructed Zhang Haoping. It is good. Although Zhang Haoping broke his arm, he couldn't lift heavy things. But a factory with a high degree of automation. In fact, no manual transportation is required. Electric forklifts and electric scooters are everywhere. One less hand. It's not that you can't drive these things. Come on, let's go out first. 99. After Chu Xiu instructed Zhang Haoping, he controlled a pile of metal and walked towards the tunnel. Wait for me. Annie didn't know what to think. He didn't keep up immediately, but turned back and ran into a weapons warehouse. Then he ran over with a small cart, pushing a flamethrower, because it is too heavy to lift. So Annie put the flamethrower fuel can on the cart, pushing the cart with one hand, hold the sprinkler in one hand. Are you sure you can use this thing? Chu Xiu thought it was a little funny. The weight of this flamethrower is estimated to be heavier than Anne herself. More important, the recoil of a flamethrower is much greater than that of a firearm. In the army, who can use a flamethrower who is not a muscular man? Isn't this similar to a fire extinguisher? Is it hard to use? Annie has some puzzled questions. Aren't flamethrowers and fire extinguishers akin with a nozzle? Is there any difference? Fine. Chu Xiu didn't beat Annie either.
Done.
Enter the tunnel first. I saw that there were still some bright tunnels, but now it was pitch black. The rapidly spreading vines blocked the entrance of the tunnel, making it airtight. It's nothing scary but the amount. Chu Xiu smacked his tongue. In the dark, I can vaguely see a dark mass. A wooden wall made of dense vines. It's spreading fast. Annie, cover your ears. Open your mouth. Chu Xiu finished. The invisible magnetic field formed the orbit of the electromagnetic gun in front of him.
Then,
a metal rod is filled in.
Boom.
Just for a moment. A sonic boom exploded in the tunnel. The huge figure shook the dust on the top of the tunnel and fell down in unison. What? Fortunately, Annie listened to Chu Xiu. Cover your ears. Open your mouth. The damage of sonic boom is avoided to the greatest extent. But she still felt her brain buzzing and her ears tingling faintly. And ahead, an airtight tunnel originally blocked by vines. Suddenly a big hole appeared. The metal plate with several times the speed of sound runs through countless vines. Salsa. But not long after, the 4.1 vines that followed blocked up this big hole. It can only be taken slowly. Chu Xiu thought about it. The surrounding metal quickly turned into giant steel knives, connected to each other. Form a structure similar to an electric fan.
Then,
spin at high speed. Let's go. Chu Xiu finished. Go straight to the tunnel exit. The rotating steel knives open the way ahead, like a giant harvester. Dense vines. At the moment of contact, it was smashed into pieces by the high-speed rotating steel knife. Fragments of vines covered the tunnel. Annie, who saw this scene, was stunned. She looked at Chu Xiu and then at the flamethrower on the cart in her hand. The whole person instantly emo. I'm so rubbish. This moment, Annie has a clearer understanding of herself.
Keep going.
More and more vines were minced by steel knives. Fragments of vines gradually covered the entire tunnel, and there was a foul-smelling sap everywhere. Some even have nowhere to go. Give it to me. I have the flamethrower. Seeing this, little Annie finally gained some confidence. He quickly pushed the cart, ran to the front, and aimed the flamethrower's nozzle forward. Fumbling around opened the insurance. Next second,
boom.
A fire dragon burst out from the vent in Annie's hand. Huge recoil. Like a heavy hammer, it slammed into the thin Annie. What? Annie, who was caught off guard, fell to the ground. The flamethrower also went out of control. Get out. Just when the out-of-control flames were about to burn Annie herself, Chu Xiu used the magnetic field to hold the flamethrower's spout. Shall I say it? Chu Xiu smiled. He had long expected this scene to happen. After speaking, with a wave of his hand, the flamethrower with a fuel tank left the 23 cart, hanging 2 meters in front. The nozzle is facing the front.
Boom.
A fire dragon with a length of tens of meters appeared again. The flames passed through the rotating steel knives, roasting the shards of vines on the ground that were smashed by the steel knives. But these are not enough. Chu Xiu released the magnetic energy again. At a position dozens of meters in front of you, an A-shaped repulsive magnetic field is generated.
Chu Xiu walked step by step.
The repulsive magnetic field will push the burning vines in the tunnel to both sides, making way for a walkable path. Amazing! When little Annie saw this operation, she couldn't help but exclaimed, "I don't care if the epithelium hurts or not." Got up quickly, following in the footsteps of Chu Xiu. Steel knives and flames make way ahead. Chu Xiu was not in a hurry, walking in the back like a leisurely stroll. Finally, before the flamethrower was about to run out of fuel, the two walked out of the tunnel. Although the vines all over the mountains are still spreading one after another, but without the constraints of a narrow space, Chu Xiu can finally let go of his hands and feet. With a wave of his hand, the invisible electric furnace formed a scorching death zone in the area of 50 meters ahead. The vines that entered it will be roasted and ignited in an instant. The metal controlled by Chu Xiu flew to a farther position, strangling the vines like a harvester. These things seemed to be impossible to kill. Looking at the black vines all over the mountains and plains, little Annie regretted it very much. Knew earlier, they didn't come. Annie's little head began to flinch. Although the forgotten silence just wrapped is far more terrifying than this vine. But the problem is, I can't remember that thing at all. I just turn my head and forget it. A thing that can be forgotten, no matter how terrifying, can't scare people. It's really impossible to kill like this. Chu Xiu knew that Annie was right. This stuff is all over the place. If he kept killing like this, he would probably not be able to kill him if his mental power was exhausted. Must find their taproot. Correct. Chu Xiu had a flash of inspiration and quickly took off his shoes. Step on the ground barefoot. In an instant, the feeling of being one with the earth struck again. The detection range of U2 far exceeds the magnetic field induction. More importantly, U2 can not only sense the vibration of the ground, but also detect the movement under the soil. These vines really are one. Chu Xiu closed his eyes. The activities in the soil were clearly imprinted in his mind. Dense vines. Fast-moving traces in the dirt. The roots are thin and intricate. But Chu Xiu keenly found that the roots of these vines seem to be complicated, but they are actually regular. They all extend outward from a certain taproot. Patterns are similar to 10, 100, 100,000. The vines that Chu Xiu is facing now are the millions of terminal branches that spread across the mountains. Along a terminal branch, Chu Xiu found a branch several hundred meters away. Follow this branch and find a branch root system that is 1 kilometer away. 2 kilometers. 3 kilometers. The scope of exploration is getting wider and wider, until the exploration limit of LV3U2 is reached. Chu Xiu still couldn't find the main root of this thing. Grass. Where the hell is this thing? Chu Xiu cursed secretly. Then, without hesitation, he consumed 10,000 experience points and upgraded his earth-preserving ability.
Ding.
Consumes 10,000 experience points. Imperial soil is raised to LV4, accompanied by a beep. Familiar energy pours into the body. The scope of U2's exploration was instantly doubled several times.
Got you.
In a moment, Chu Xiu was in a valley 6 or 7 kilometers away. Found the taproot of the vine. The dense, capillary-like vines all extend from this main root. Leader, got it out, it's indeed a napalm bomb. Just when Chu Xiu found the taproot of the vine, Zhang Haoping drove an electric forklift out of the tunnel. On the fork arm of the forklift, a material pallet is held on which 2 oval shells are fixed. kind of like the shells carried by heavy bombers. That's good. Let Lao Zhang head down. Chu Xiu finished. The old Zhongtu, who has been hovering high in the sky, immediately drive the transport plane towards the direction where Chu Xiu is and descend. Roar! When the helicopter descended to about 100 meters, next to the mountain, halfway up the mountain, there was a sudden roar that shook the heavens and the earth. Is this tiger roar? Little Annie, who has watched Animal World countless times, instantly identified what animal was calling, accompanied by a roar. A huge figure jumped up from the mountainside. It is a huge and colorful tiger with a length of 5 or 6 meters. This jump at least jumped up to a height of tens of meters. A more tiger. No, it's a bit like a Bengal tiger. 35. Annie also wants to identify which species the tiger belongs to. But the next second, a scene she never expected happened.
Swish.
In midair, behind the giant tiger, a pair of huge wings with a wingspan of nearly 7 meters were unfolded. Then, in a dive and glide attitude, flying towards the valley where Chu Xiu is located, the target is the helicopter driven by Lao Zhongtu. Spotted winged tiger. B+ grade ferocious beast. A tiger-shaped creature with 2 wings on its back, several times the size of an ordinary tiger. Has super strength, speed, reflexes, and bounce. Strong sense of territory, often entrenched in high-rise buildings or on the edge of cliffs. Can glide, cannot fly. Chu Xiu's eyes already showed the information of the tiger. See, it wants to attack the helicopter. Court death. Chu Xiu's eyes turned cold. Get some energy right away. Controlling a piece of metal, it flew towards the swooping striped-winged tiger. Wait a minute. At this moment, Annie didn't seem to know what she found. Suddenly stood up. It's not malicious, and trust me, it's really not malicious. It hurts. Annie stopped Chu Xiu, who was ready to do it. He spoke urgently. Yes. Chu Xiu thought of Annie's abilities. Believe a little bit. Take a closer look at the striped-winged tiger that swoops in. Found out, as Annie said, this B+ rank beast, the striped-winged tiger, was covered in wounds. The colorful red part seen in the distance is actually the blood left by the injury. Even the unfolded pair of wings were shattered. It's like it's just been through a tragic battle.
And lost.
Roar! Just as Chu Xiu observed. The striped-winged tiger that swooped in has already swooped over and threw itself on the helicopter. But it didn't attack the helicopter's airframe or propellers. Instead, it threw itself on the landing gear. Retract your wings. Wrap the landing gear with tiger claws and tail. It seems that it is not attacking the helicopter, but is using the suspended helicopter to avoid something. During the whole process, the zebra-winged tiger didn't even look at the old head in the helicopter. Chubby tiger eyes. Keep staring at the black vines below. His eyes were full of human fear. 35. Although the zebra tigers did not attack helicopters. But Lao Zhongtu was still startled by the sudden appearance of the tiger and almost suffered a heart attack. And suddenly, there was a heavy object hanging on the landing gear. The helicopter also swayed, but it quickly returned to normal. Tiger with a body length of 6 meters. It looks exaggerated, but the actual weight may be less than a ton. After all, tigers in nature can grow to about 3 meters in length and weigh only a few hundred kilograms. A military transport aircraft. Obviously, it won't crash out of control just because a tiger of about a ton is hung. Boss, what should I do now? The old man was taken aback. Overwhelmed. You continue to land. When it doesn't exist. 35. Chu Xiu commanded on the walkie-talkie. It is good. The old man had no choice but to obey. The helicopter continued to descend. Wow. The spotted winged tiger crawling on the landing gear found that the height was decreasing. Panicked immediately. Roaring, slapping the body of the helicopter with his claws.
Seems to say,
don't drop your altitude. But when Chu Xiu spoke, Lao Zhongtu couldn't ignore the protest of a tiger. So still descending altitude. This tiger is too timid. Chu Xiu cleared the spreading vines while providing a clearing ground for the helicopter to descend, while complaining, "It must have been injured by these vines." 35. Annie saw Tiger's worry. As the height gets lower and lower, the zebra-winged tiger became more and more impatient and kept beating the belly of the helicopter. Although the old man was driving a transport plane, not a gunship. But the thickness of the armor can also be bulletproof, especially at the belly, where the armor is thickened. Still can't stop the claws of the striped-winged tiger. Took a few shots.
Just a few dents on it.
Be honest. Chu Xiu gave a look. On the helicopter, parts that do not affect flight, such as the cabin door, should be separated immediately. Turned into liquid metal. Wrap all the limbs of the zebra-winged tiger. Then shape. Roar. 99. The zebra-winged tiger still wanted to struggle. Chu Xiu directly manipulated the metal, dragged it off the helicopter, and brought it to him. Roar. 35. As soon as it landed, the striped-winged tiger seemed even more flustered. The huge tiger, head turned around on the ground, glance right and left, one roar after another, as if afraid of being surrounded by those black vines. "Show it's all right, show." Little Annie didn't know where the courage came from. He actually walked over on his own initiative. Although Chu Xiu bound the limbs of the zebra-winged tiger, its huge tiger head could still move. "It's okay. You are safe. We won't hurt you." Little Annie comforted her. On the other hand, he stretched out his hand towards the huge head of the striped-winged tiger. "The question now is not whether we hurt it or not." Seeing this scene, Chu Xiu frowned. "The question now is whether this thing will hurt you." Chu Xiu thought to himself. Roar. Watching Annie stretch out her hand, the striped-winged tiger, who was bound and fell to the ground, immediately roared. One of its teeth. It's about the size of Annie's arm. If this swallowed Annie in one mouthful, it probably wouldn't even be enough to stick between her teeth.
Annie.
Chu Xiu is ready to make a move. But the next second, Annie gritted her teeth and put her hand directly on the head of the spotted-winged tiger. Roar. In the last second, the striped-winged tiger grinned. The next second, suddenly quiet. "It's all right. 9. Annie breathed a sigh of relief. Because she was not tall enough, she could only touch the furry cheeks of the zebra-winged tiger. Roar. The zebra-winged tiger didn't hurt Annie. He even used a huge tiger head to rub against Annie's palm. Is this animal friendly? Chu Xiu was startled. I didn't know what Annie's ability did before, but now I finally understand. MJU 4 NDA 2 NTC 3 ODM 1 MZU 2 NDMXOJ smiley face. Anai, I'm going to untie it. Are you sure it won't hurt you? 99.
Chu Xiu asked.
Well, sure. Jenny won't hurt me. Annie turned her head and said confidently. Chu Xiu was slightly taken aback. Guys, the names are all up. Fine.
Done.
Chu Xiu thought about it. The metal that bound the striped-winged tiger detached immediately. It changed back to its original appearance and flew towards the landing helicopter. Roar. The striped-winged tiger regained freedom is indeed what Annie said. Not only did it not hurt her. With a low growl, he took the initiative to stop in front of Annie. Looking at the posture, it seems to be protecting Annie from the attack of black vines. Jenny, can you help clear these vines? Annie stood on tiptoe, but she couldn't reach the zebra's ears. Can only shout loudly. Jenny? Tigress? Chu Xiu noticed that Annie's name had an I in it. Well, Jenny is a big sister. Annie nodded. Li Ma Zhao. Chu Xiu did not copy the animal kinship and does not intend to. So, it's not clear how Annie communicates with animals. But obviously, the tiger should have understood Annie's words. Roar. The striped-winged tiger named Jenny let out a low growl. But look at the eyes of the black vines. But still full of fear. A cowardly tiger. Chu Xiu's voice just fell. I don't know whether I understood this sentence or agreed to Annie. Roar. Jenny managed to overcome her fear.
Growl.
Pounced directly towards the vine. With a wave of the huge tiger claw, the vines were torn into pieces. Leader. At the same time, Lao Zhangtu also landed the helicopter. You and Zhang Haoping took off with incendiary bombs. When I ask you to vote, you will vote. Chu Xiu finished. With a wave of hands, 2 napalm bombs flew out of thin air and fell into the cargo hold of the helicopter. With napalm in the helicopter, Zhang Haoping also climbed in. According to Chu Xiu's order, Lao Zhangtu immediately drove the helicopter and took off slowly. After doing all this, Chu Xiu set his sights on Annie and the striped tiger. Originally, Chu Xiu planned to let Annie get on the plane too and went to the taproot of the vine alone. Now there is an extra Jenny. Chu Xiu was still a little worried, letting a powerful B-rank beast completely out of his control. In case the high point of the helicopter is beyond its attack range, this thing goes crazy again. No one can cure it. Annie, can we use this thing as a mount? Chu Xiu thought for a while and asked, What? But Jenny is a girl? Annie was stunned for a moment, but she still leaned into the ear of the zebra-winged tiger. In order for Annie to reach her ears, the zebra-winged tiger also lowered its head in cooperation. Is it okay? After Annie finished asking, she looked at the zebra-winged tiger with expectant eyes. Roar. Jenny growled. I don't know whether to agree or not. However, she still fell down, her stomach pressed against the ground, and motioned Annie to climb up. 547. Thanks. Annie was very happy and quickly climbed up, grabbing a tuft of hair on the back of the zebra-winged tiger.
Sit firmly.
Roar 35. After Annie climbed up, the zebra-winged tiger turned its head to Chu Xiu, growled lowly. It's like saying, come up too. But I don't know if it was an illusion. Chu Xiu actually saw a trace of disgust in this guy's eyes. You. Forget it, the labor and management are not so arrogant as you are. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, he released the repelling magnetic field, and the whole person rose into the air. At the same time, it also flew the surrounding metal with it. Under the control of Chu Xiu, these metals, a huge metal platform quickly formed. Jump up. Chu Xiu hangs in the air, pointing at the platform and shouting. Roar. Jenny was stunned for a moment. But without Chu Xiu's suppression, the dense vines have spread around. Jump up, Jenny. Plus Annie speaks. The striped-winged tiger no longer hesitated and jumped. Jumped straight to the platform. Stand still. Chu Xiu finished. Directly used the magnetic field to hold the platform and fly towards the valley. But halfway through, Chu Xiu found that this method was a bit too wasteful of mental energy. So the way was changed. Changed a large platform into 2 small platforms. Let 2 platforms appear alternately in front of each other and place a repulsive magnetic field under each platform. The platforms are about 70 or 80 meters apart from each other. Jump. Next, Jenny can only be like a platform jumping game. Non-stop jumping. And it's a super long distance extreme jump. As long as the jumping force is a little smaller, Jenny will fall into the dense vines below. Oh, it really saves a lot of effort. Chu Xiu smiled. Now it's just manipulating the metal and placing the repulsive field. There is no need to hold up this stupid tiger like the King Toda all the time. Roar. Although Jenny's brain is not as smart as a human being, but also no tired. Plus, he was seriously injured. After dancing dozens of times in a row, I realized that this human was intentional. Let out a weak growl. Chu Xiu, Jenny seems tired. Shall we take a break? Annie discovers the abnormality of the winged tiger Jenny.
Couldn't help asking.
It's all right. It'll be there soon. Chu Xiu looked at the valley ahead. A triumphant smile appeared on the corner of the mouth. After arriving over the valley, Chu Xiu began to descend. The vines in the valley are more dense. Originally, this valley was shaped like a thin line of sky. Chu Xiu can land directly from above.
But now,
the dense vines have blocked the water around the valley, directly capped the valley.
Deb.
On the other hand, at the bottom of the valley, there is a gap to enter. Can't drop bombs directly. Originally, Chu Xiu planned to drop bombs directly here. Take a look now. Even if the bomb was dropped, the napalm would be blocked by the vines above the valley. Can't burn the taproot below. Let's go down. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, he flew straight towards the entrance of the valley. Roar! Jenny didn't know what to notice. He has been rushing towards the valley, making an uneasy low growl. It's all right, Jenny. Don't be afraid. 39. Annie also tried to comfort Jenny, but her own voice trembled. Chu Xiu felt a little amused beside him. A cowardly, dying Annie. A cowardly, dying tiger. Still women. Looking at it this way, it seems like a perfect match. Okay, if you two are afraid, just stay here. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, he fell to the valley alone. Jenny? Annie patted the winged tiger Jenny on the back. Roar! Jenny understood immediately. With a roar, he unfolded his wings and glided down. 2 and 1 tiger. Directly at the entrance of the valley. Salsa. It was almost the moment of landing. The surrounding vines rioted. Densely packed, like countless small snakes, it spread to Chu Xiu and others. Roar! Jenny roared and waved her tiger claws to grab the vines. But for fear of throwing Annie off her back, Jenny's range of motion was careful. Did not dare to go all out. Chu Xiu on the other side had no worries. Mind a move. The metal platform brought along the way was immediately differentiated and turned into steel knives. Harvest towards the vine. If only these vines had experience. Even if one has only 0.1 experience, it is estimated that there are several thousand. Chu Xiu couldn't help thinking. But just think about it, because Chu Xiu also knows that these vines are not separate life forms. Strictly speaking, the vines all over the mountains and plains belong to a plant.
Soon.
The two rushed into the valley with 1 tiger. Or it is 1 person and 1 tiger because Annie is just making up the numbers. Or it is she who is controlling the Yihu. Into the valley. The offensive of the vines is even more violent. And a giant vine that is dozens of times thicker than the vine outside appeared. It's as thick as a bucket. And the surface is covered with thorns. These sturdy vines waved directly and whipped towards Chu Xiu. Electric furnace. But Chu Xiu just raised his hand. The invisible magnetic field energy formed an ultra-high temperature electric heating furnace area ahead. In the process of the giant vine whipping down, it was quickly dried by the furnace. The wrought tan withered. In the end it turned into a shriveled, dead branch. Chu Xiu cleared the surrounding vines while turning his eyes to the top of the valley. The vines above must also be removed. Otherwise, the napalm bomb will not be able to be dropped at all. Chu Xiu tried to separate out half of the blade. Kill the vines above the valley. But the effect is not ideal. Just after clearing the gap, in less than 2 seconds, the dense vines were blocked again. And I don't know if they sensed Chu Xiu-S arrival. The vines all over the mountains suddenly became violent. If you look down from the sky, it will be found that the vines that had spread to the whole area of Zhuangshan are shrinking back. In other words, it is spreading in the direction of the valley. As the vines retreat, several low mountains on the periphery of Ranunculus Mountain, at a speed visible to the naked eye, are seen from the dark gray before, faded to reveal the original earth color. But the trees on the mountain were still dead. These vines are like uncontrollable water pumps, frantically pumping nutrients from the earth, so that where it spreads, no more flowers and trees. The juice of these guys can extinguish flames. Chu Xiu frowned. Although he is not a fire power user, but it can pass through the high heat of an induction furnace, dry it out, and ignite the surrounding vines. But these ordinary flames cannot spread. It won't last long. The sap from the wounded vine was extinguished. Tried various methods to no avail. Chu Xiu set his sights on the structure of the valley itself. The valley is the topography of the sky. Narrow on top, lower width. Therefore, the spreading vines can easily seal the top of the valley. I wonder if I can make this valley bigger? Chu Xiu had a bold idea. Change the terrain directly. After rising to LV4, it not only increases the range of the Earth's sense. Bigger changes. It is the strength of the ability to repel the soil. The previous Imperial soil was really only able to control the soil. Even though Chu Xiu's mental power is several times stronger than Taofu's, it's just that the amount of manipulation is a little more. For example, he can manipulate nearly 1,000 tons of soil at a time. Other than that, there is no difference.
But now,
Chu Xiu, who has upgraded you to. Not only can it sense the echo of the soil, it can even sense the rock, which is also faintly echoing. Chu Xiu tried to stomp.
Boom.
The ground shook violently. Then, a sharp stone thorn pierced the ground, like a root-tip bamboo shoot up from the ground.
Pierced a large vine.
Really okay. Chu Xiu thought about it, and the stalagmites that rose from the ground collapsed into a pile of stones in an instant. There is a big limit to the ability to control the soil. That is, you have to keep your feet on the ground. Whether it is manipulating soil or manipulating rocks, it must be connected to the earth. Can't handle metal like Chu Xiu does. Control a rock or dirt and fly around in the sky. Leaving that aside, the ability to control the soil also has a very powerful advantage, that is, the consumption of mental power very little. Chu Xiu may not be able to handle thousands of tons of metal at once, but it can easily handle thousands of tons of soil. Because of this, it was Chu Xiu who came up with the idea of changing the terrain. Stand still. After waking up to Annie beside him, Chu Xiu closed his eyes and immersed himself in the earth. Without his control, the surrounding steel knives immediately stopped spinning. The invisible electric furnace also disappeared instantly. Salsa, the dense vines spread almost instantly.
Roar.
99. The zebra-winged tiger let out a roar. But she alone, no, the power of a tiger can't stop the vines in all directions. Roar. Look at the vines that are getting closer. In Jenny's mind, a familiar image emerged. He was entangled in dense vines with thorns, and his body was bruised. Jenny, it's all right, Jenny. Annie felt Jenny's impatience and quickly calmed down. But Jenny looked around. The battle was no longer focused, and the huge tiger had looked left and right, as if looking for a direction to escape. A cowardly cat. At this moment, Chu Xiu opened his eyes and said with merciless contempt,
Done.
Stomp lightly. Boom. In an instant, the entire mountain trembled. The earth shook. Countless rocks rolled down the mountain. Some dead trees were swaying and crouching. The valley, where Chu Xiu is located. 4 flowers. The ground rolled violently. The soil is like waves, surging layer by layer. Salsa. In the valley, dense vines are moving. Suddenly, their roots seem to be caught by something and could no longer move forward half a step. That's countless rocks buried deep in the ground. Driven by the soil, they gathered together and squeezed each other. These rocks pressed and sealed the vine roots that were as numerous as the hairs of a cow, and the gaps could not even pass a piece of paper. But not all the vines stopped moving. The vines outside the valley are still spreading. Because of Chu Xiu's focus. Not on these vines, but on the valley of this line of heaven. Now let's split. Chu Xiu said, and lightly stepped on the ground again. In an instant, the earth shakes more violently. The valley, in particular, seems to be experiencing a magnitude 10 earthquake, as if there were a pair of invisible palms. I'm grabbing both ends of the valley and pulling it hard.
Boom.
In the violent tremor, the rocks that make up the mountain cracked from the middle and collapsed to the sides. F***K has been hovering in the helicopter above the valley. Old Zhang Tu and Zhang Haoping were dumbfounded, and the two of them stared blankly at the changes in the valley. His jaw dropped in shock. Head Chief. 39. Are you all right? The valley seems to be collapsing. After reacting, Zhang Haoping quickly turned on the communicator and shouted, We're fine. Annie, watch out for falling rocks. 35. Chu Xiu's calm reply came from the communicator. It is also accompanied by a reminder. In the valley, as the gleam of the sky collapsed, the sun pierced through the pervasive dust and shone into the gloomy valley. Although the whole rock mass is dumped to both sides of the valley, but there were still countless falling rocks. Watch out for falling rocks. In the same sentence, the ability to control the soil can only control the rocks or soil connected to the earth. Such a stone that fell from the sky is out of control. Chu Xiu can only remind. While turning the surrounding metal into an A-shaped dome, protect yourself and Annie's head up the mountain. Large and small falling rocks hit the metal dome one after another. Fortunately, the dome is A-shaped. The moment the rock falls, it will roll down from both sides. But the surrounding vines have nothing to protect. The falling boulders smashed the crowded vines, and the juice splashed everywhere. Rumbling, the ground trembled for more than 10 seconds. It wasn't until the last large rock fell down that everything gradually returned to calm. Wait for the dust to disperse. The valley that used to be a thin line of sky. Suddenly see the light. The sun shines unobstructed into the valley from the huge gap. Bang, operator. Chu Xiu waved his hand. Magnetic energy lifted the metal dome above. I did this, Timo? The sight in front of him shocked Chu Xiu, who was the initiator. If I had to describe it in one word, that's upside down. The valley that used to be dark and humid, without sunshine all day long, now sees sunshine again May 6-3. Even the dense black vines were swept under the earth by the tumbling mud like waves. A few are exposed outside. It was also smashed by the boulders that fell from the sky, and the juice was flowing. Seeing the scene in front of her, little Annie opened her mouth blankly.
Can't say a word.
Not only her, but even next to her, the striped-winged tiger Jenny, who was scolded by Chu Xiu as a stupid tiger. He also stared at the valley motionless. Eyes stared like lanterns. A very anthropomorphic horror hangs on the huge tiger head. Although the ability of Emperor has various shortcomings. For example, the use of restrictions must be down to earth to activate. Another example is that the lethality is insufficient, and it cannot cause damage to the enemy with strong defense. Despite all the shortcomings, but one advantage cannot be ignored. That is, the scene of you two is really big. It's really shocking. Come on, let's go in. 35. Chu Xiu came back to his senses and continued to walk into the valley. But this time, no more vines came out to block. Because the vines in the valley were either flattened by falling rocks or swept into the ground by the tumbling soil. It is stuck by the rocks in the soil, and it will not be able to get out at all for a while. Into the valley, an even more pungent and unpleasant smell spread out. And the flavor gets stronger and stronger as it goes in. It's like the rancid smell of countless animals dying and rotting. It smells bad. Annie covered her nose. This smell, a little bit will feel the stomach is rumbling. Roar. The striped-winged tiger under Annie let out an uneasy low roar. Seems to be afraid of something. Chu Xiu is too lazy to complain. You're still a B-rank beast, and you are still B+, so timid as a house cat.
Keep going.
This valley has no exit, and is a death valley. To the end of the valley, a huge deep pit appeared in front of everyone. The pits were filled with rotting corpses, both human and animal, in countless numbers. These corpses are already highly decomposed. The body tissue turned into a disgusting liquid and flowed into the deep pit.
Fill up the pit.
Like a pond of blood and carrion. Some boulders that fell earlier. It smashed into this pond, causing part of the rotting liquid flesh to splash around. Caused the whole valley to be disgusting red and black substances. That sickening rancid smell. It is from these rotten substances and this pit that it emanates. Vomit. Seeing this scene, little Annie's face instantly turned pale. Turn around and vomit. I almost threw up my overnight meal. No wonder we have been in Sioux Mountain for so long, and apart from this stupid tiger, we haven't seen a single beast. Chu Xiu said solemnly. Vines cannot grow out of thin air and grow everywhere. If you want to cover the entire mountain and grow everywhere, you must have enough nutrients. Now, it seems these vines not only absorb the nutrients in the soil, but also withered the flowers and trees of the whole mountain. At the same time, he also started to attack the creatures in the mountains. It can be said, this thing robs and absorbs everything that can be used as nutrients. And it all happened in just a few days. because the way the vines expand is not divided into 2 or 3, but 10 points, 100%, 100,000. If the nutrition is sufficient, then the next step should be 1,000,000,000,000. The rate of growth is terrifying. While Chu Xiu was amazed, he couldn't help feeling a little strange. Because of his past life, I have never heard of such a terrifying existence in the mountain. Call. Annie's face got better after she vomited. The two moved on. In order not to step on these disgusting rotting flesh and blood, Chu Xiu simply released the repulsive magnetic field, and his body was suspended for half a meter. Move forward in a dangling posture. As for little Annie, anyway, she was riding on that stupid tiger. Chu Xiu didn't care. Near the pool of rotting blood, Annie and Chu Xiu, at the same time, discovered that there was a woman in the deep pit full of rotting flesh. Women are clueless. Relying on the edge of the pit, the lower body was soaked in the rotting flesh and blood, revealing the skin of the back. Chu Xiu, there's a man there. Looks like you're still alive? Annie hurriedly shouted. Chu Xiu did not speak, because the information of this woman had already appeared in his eyes. Mimic Vine Girl. C+ class monster, formerly E-class. The mimic vine is one of the few monsters that can grow rapidly. Through uncontrolled intake of nutrients, food genome can be upgraded to be level at most. Vine girls take in nutrients through a vine-like root system that can grow rapidly. The vine girl has several taproots, usually rooted in the ground and extracted during battle. Until all the main roots are drawn, the Fuji girl cannot move and cannot exert all her combat power. Description: don't be deceived by beautiful things, otherwise you will become the nourishment of the vine. Skin shows. The woman in front of her was actually an E-rank growth monster. Now it has grown to a terrible C+ level by plundering a mountain of nutrients, and soon to break through the B level. After working for a long time, all those vines I cut are the mouths of this guy? Chu Xiu frowned. The scan results are very clear. The numerous vines outside are not actually vines. Strictly speaking, it is just the root system differentiated by the mimic vine girl, the root system used to absorb nutrients. What? Is this woman a monster? Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Annie was puzzled. The back in the blood pool. Although weird. But it looks like a living woman. It looks so pretty from the back. It's flowing. Skin like sebum. A monster? You'll know right away. 35. 4.1. Chu Xiu manipulated a piece of metal, turned it into a sharp blade, and attacked the woman in the carrion pool. Halala. The blade has not yet arrived. The blood pool, full of rotting flesh and blood, tumbled. Then, the figure of the woman rose quickly, and connected below is a huge figure. A giant monster that is nearly 10 meters high and looks like a dead tree. What? The sudden scene frightened Annie to fall on Ihu's back. What is back kill? This is no longer a matter of turning around and looking good. But that woman doesn't exist at all. That beautiful back. On top of this monster's head, there is a similar ornament. The overall form of the monster is adult. The body is like a combination of countless vines, woven and intertwined. Her lower body is still buried in the pool, but only the part that is exposed. It is already close to 10 meters high. After the mimic vine girl emerged from the carrion pool, her eyes immediately locked on Chu Xiu. But she has no eyes. There are only 2 holes that look like tree holes. The hole is pitch black, like 2 small abyss. Gluck cluck. Then, the mimic vine girl made a strange cry, like dry wood rubbing. Laugh Zenon. Without hesitation, Chu Xiu launched the attack first. A wave of hands, surrounding metal. Most of them turned into steel knives and chains and flew towards the mimic Fuji girl. The other half, under the control of Chu Xiu, turned into a metal rod more than 1 meter long. The invisible electromagnetic track has begun to be erected. Chu Xiu is the most deadly killing move when he makes a move. The system prompts have been very clear. What's really amazing about this thing is the few taproots she buried deep in the soil. The best way to defeat the mimic vine. She had to be killed before she could pull her legs out of the dirt. Giggle cluck. Mimic Vine seems to sense the danger. At this point, Chu Xiu is not surprising. If this guy had no perception, he wouldn't be scared to approach by the silence in the arsenal. Gluck cluck. Accompanied by a strange cry. The Mimic Vine girl supported her body with a structure similar to her hands that was exposed outside, trying to quickly pull out the roots of my own 23. Clang tilde operator. The steel knife controlled by Chu Xiu slashed at her, but only a faint white mark was left. Notice this. With a look from Chu Xiu, the steel knife immediately turned into a hacksaw, and it moved quickly. At the same time, the invisible electromagnetic track has been erected. Visible current. Jump in the air. Don't move, don't move. Chu Xiu was aiming while manipulating the metal, restricting the movement of the mimic wood girl. Okay. After locking is complete, Chu Xiu immediately charged the metal rod and filled it into the orbit.
Boom.
Just for a moment, the metal rod was accelerated to supersonic speed, soon enough to see a white light. The head of the mimic wood girl was instantly penetrated by white light and blown to pieces. The beautiful figure on the head. It was also blown into a mixture of sawdust and flesh and blood in an instant.
Disgusting. Boom.
Then, the mimetic wooden girl nearly 10 meters high fell to the ground with a bang. The ground trembled slightly. The leader is really strong. Inside the helicopter above the valley, the old man's old face was full of shock. When I saw this monster, I thought how powerful it was, but it was actually killed by Chu Xiu. Shocked. Old Zhang turned his head and bragged to Zhang Haoping. Said how long he had been with the leader of Chu. I have seen scenes like this many times. Yes. Once he boasted, Zhang Haoping was stunned. At this time, everyone thought the Mimic Vine girl was dead. Only Chu Xiu said nothing. After waiting for about 2 seconds, I still did not hear the system prompt to kill. Chu Xiu said nothing. Thunder and lightning gather in the palm of your hand. A dazzling lightning spear quickly took shape. Then, without hesitation, Chu Xiu threw it at the mimetic vine girl who fell to the ground. Halala, the mimic vine girl really moved. Not only dodged the lightning spear, he also took advantage of the 2-second gap to pull out an extremely thick root system from the soil. This line. It's too thick to be hugged by one person. Moreover, the headless mimic vine girl not only did nothing, but immediately launched an attack on Chu Xiu. The huge root system is raised high. Swing again.
C.
Chu Xiu immediately increased the repulsive magnetic field, and the whole person rose from the ground and flew into the air.
Boom.
The taproot falls. The earth trembled. The boulder that fell earlier was instantly smashed into pieces. Finely crushed stones, blazing in all directions like bullets. Roar. Ihujeni hurriedly protected Annie with her body. Blocked the rubble for her. You take her out first. Seeing this, Chu Xiu finally let go of his prejudice against this tiger. Agreed to let her out of his control. Roar. The zebra-winged tiger roared. Quickly took Annie to escape the valley. Chief, are we dropping napalm now? 35. At the same time, the channel also thought of Zhang Haoping's voice. Don't worry. Follow my command. Chu Xiu looked up at the helicopter above and said solemnly.
Yes.
Zhang Haoping finished speaking. It was quiet on the channel. Chu Xiu continued to focus on the mimic vine girl, thinking, why can't this guy move without his head? Damn, I'm stupid. Seeing the root system of the mimic vine girl waving, Chu Xiu suddenly reacted. What the heck is a plant? Maybe the brain he just destroyed. Just like the woman on top of this guy's head. It's just a decoration. But, since it is a plant, 99. Chu Xiu thought for a while, put away the repulsive magnetic field, and landed. In order not to step on those disgusting carrion. Also, stay away from deep pits.
Boom.
See Chu Xiu landing. The mimic vine girl immediately threw her only taproot over. This thing can actually stretch in midair. The originally thick root system became extremely slender when it was shaken. Like a long whip, Chu Xiu had already landed dozens of meters away. This thing can still attack. But at this time, Chu Xiu had already landed on the ground, stepped on the soft soil.
Boom.
The moment when the taproot of the vine girl struck. A thick earth wall rose out of thin air, blocking the attack of the mimic vine girl. Oh, you really have a lot of roots. Chu Xiu fell to the ground. 563 can clearly see several taproots of the mimetic vines moving underground through the earth sense of U2, like octopus. But the number is far more than 8. Once the vine girl pulls out all these roots, not only does she have a stronger strength, but she can also get out of the soil and move freely. Looks like you really want to come out. Of course, Chu Xiu won't let the mimic vine succeed.
Done.
Stomp lightly. The soil where the mimic vine girl was located instantly surging up. In the invisible underground, countless rocks were pushed over by the tumbling mud and gathered together. Squeeze each other. Snap the taproots of the vine girl one by one. A single rock or two may not hold the taproot of the vine girl. After all, she can be a C+ grade monster. It is the most powerful monster that Chu Xiu has encountered so far. Before, the night demon spirit encountered in the hospital was only a C level. A single rock is the taproot that can't hold the vine girl. But what Chu Xiu controls is hundreds of thousands of tons of rocks, plus the heavy dirt pressing on the rocks. Add these together. It's enough to make the vine girl unable to pull the root system. Gluck cluck. Mimic Vine Girl found that several of her other roots were stuck in the soil and could not move. Outraged, she lifts up the only root system again. But before he could fall, Chu Xiu waved his hand, and all the metals around him turned into long chains. Bind this root system firmly. Immediately afterwards, Chu Xiu thought about it. Rumbling, rows of rocks rise from the ground, connected to these chains. Form an existence similar to a chain array. At first glance, it looks like the lock demon tower specially used to lock monsters in the Xianxia TV series. It's just that Chu Xiu locked it. Just a root system of the vine girl. An aggressive, tentacle-like root. Gluck cluck. With the only root system is also locked. Mimic vine girl, there is no way to attack Chu Xiu, who is dozens of meters away. All I could do was keep making weird noises. You must be feeling embarrassed? Chu Xiu smiled and took the initiative to walk towards the mimic vine girl. A dignified sea-level monster is trapped in the soil by his own greed. I can't play the strength that I should have. If it weren't for the imitative vine girl being too greedy, put all their roots into the soil dozens of meters deep, looting nutrients without restraint. It's not that hard to beat. Even 1/10 of his combat power could not be brought into play. Gluck cluck. Look at Chu Xiu, who was approaching step by step. The Fuji girl became more violent, like a trapped beast, struggling frantically. Rumbling, under her struggle, the earth really shook. And Chu Xiu can feel the rocks in the ground are loosening a little bit. As long as the mimic vine girl is given a little more time, she may really be able to pull out her roots. Only, Chu Xiu would not give her this time. Electric furnace. 99. Mind a move. The magnetic field energy formed an invisible electric heating furnace in front of Chu Xiu. And with Chu Xiu approaching step by step, the high-temperature area of the electric furnace will cover the mimetic Rot-Tan girl little by little. ZZ. The terrifying high temperature instantly scorched the skin of the vine girl. Some bark-like substances cracked and fell off the vine girl's body.
Che. Sigh.
Sigh. The wisteria struggled even more intensely. The headless humanoid body swayed left and right. A pair of hands woven from countless vines kept hitting the ground, making a loud rumbling sound. Chu Xiu saw this. Silently increased the output of electromagnetic energy. For a moment, the temperature of the electric furnace suddenly soared. From less than 1,000 degrees originally, it suddenly soared to more than 2,000 degrees. Terrible heat warps the air tilde operator. Just the residual heat radiated. The surrounding carrion gradually roasted into mummy without moisture. Golem. The blood pool filled with rotting flesh was roasted by the high temperature and gradually boiled. White smoke billows from the pool. Exudes a pungent smell. Some corpses and bones were brought to the pool's surface by boiling blood. Countless carrion rolls up and down. Such a scene is beyond the acceptable range of ordinary people. And it's just the second performance of the high temperature of the electric furnace. Gluck cluck. A mimetic vine girl who is really cared for. The vine-like substances on the body surface were dried, burned, and fell off layer by layer, with a screeching like dry wood rubbing. The wisteria's body quickly withered. Originally, it was 7 or 8 meters tall without its head, but now it withers at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, salsa, the black vines all over the mountains seemed to suffer great pain, twisted and waved wildly. In the eyes of Zhang Hao and others on the helicopter, as far as the eye can see, it's like a dance of demons. These crazy vines are spreading desperately into the valley. Oh, are you afraid? Chu Xiu sneered. The output of magnetic field energy is again increased.
Boom.
In an instant, the dried corpse nearby was directly ignited by the residual temperature. Mimic Vine Girl has finally reached its limit. At this time, the body has shrunk to less than 2 meters and is still curled up. The body is full of cracks. It looks like a dead old tree.
C.
Chu Xiu reduced the temperature of the electric furnace. Quietly waited. Outside the valley, the vines all over the mountains and plains rushed over like waves. From the sky, a whole piece of black is converging towards a point. This point, it's the mimic vine girl. Chu Xiu stood on the spot, through the earth sense of the imperial earth, quietly waiting for the vines to gather. Drop napalm. Finally, after most of the vines gathered near the valley, Chu Xiu gave the order to drop the bomb.
And at the same time,
controls a piece of reddish metal that has been baked with residual heat. Fly like a dead vine girl.
Boom.
Metal bumped lightly. The Fuji girl is like a large piece of charcoal that has been carbonized. It shattered into pieces in an instant. You killed the C+-level monster. Mimic Vine Girl. EXP plus 5,000. Current EXP, 31,447. Accompanied by a beep. The densely packed vines that gathered together seem to have been suddenly drained of their mobility. Stop moving instantly. They are piled up near the valley and piled up into small hills. Leader, please evacuate. At the same time, with Zhang Haoping's reminder, 2 napalm bombs, manually activated, were then pushed down from the helicopter.
Boom. Boom.
There were 2 deafening explosions in succession. Flames soared into the sky. On both sides of the valley, 2 huge seas of fire were instantly formed. The fire climbed up the slope of the valley, and in less than half a minute, ignited the entire mountain. The raging flames soared into the sky. In the face of such military-grade incendiary bombs, the sap of the vines has no effect on extinguishing the fire at all. Just came out, evaporated by high temperature. Soon, the vines all over the mountains and plains were ignited, and the raging fire burned half of the sky.
Swish.
And Chu Xiu disappeared at the moment when the incendiary bomb fell. Several flashes. It directly caught up with the striped-winged tiger that had already run far away. Is it necessary to run so far? Coward. Chu Xiu flickered beside Ihu Jenny. A slap slapped her huge tiger head. Roar. Jenny just wanted to get angry. Turning his head, he found that it was Chu Xiu and instantly disappeared. Okay, you're not stupid. You know you're afraid of me. Chu Xiu smiled. He was in a good mood now. The threat of Sushan has been completely resolved. Although it took a while to solve the mimetic vine girl, its existence also helped Chu Xiu a small favor from the side, Li Wanghao. The greedy expansion of the Fuji Maiden killed all the animals and plants in the mountain area. This leads to the death of the Fuji girl. Sushan has become the safest place in the apocalypse. At least in the short term, there won't be any more danger here. All right. It's time to think about how to bring this thing back. Chu Xiu set his sights on the spotted winged tiger. Shortly after, the helicopter began to return. In the cabin, Chu Xiu and the others were talking and laughing just like when they came. The only change It is Zhang Haoping, who is more than 10 years old. Now it looks like he is the same age as the old Zhang Tu next to him. But if the viewing angle is moved to the outside of the helicopter, we'll see a tiger with a body length of 6 meters, like an animal, suspended under the belly of the helicopter by several arm-thick chains. Roar.
Grave.
The entire return flight, the tiger has been groaning like a complaint. It is estimated that it is because a B-plus class beast hangs on the helicopter. Chu Xiu and others were on their way home. It was not attacked by any flying beasts. Some winged demons saw the striped-winged tiger hanging from the helicopter and turned around from a distance, not daring to approach at all. There is no harassment of beasts. The return flight was very smooth. The helicopter successfully arrived at Yijiang Garden before sunset.
Wow.
What a big tiger. The helicopter hadn't landed yet, and Yi and other women were staying in the villa area. I noticed the striped-winged tiger hanging under the plane. No way. The presence of this big guy is too strong. After the helicopter landed, the metal chains that bound the zebra-winged tiger automatically fell off. Suddenly came to an unfamiliar area and was surrounded by a group of human women. Jenny looked very grumpy and restless. Roar. The anxious Jenny let out a roar. The roar rolled up the fallen leaves on the ground and flew around. This tiger is a high-level beast. Li Qiuyue and the others, who were attracted by Jing Jing, looked shocked. Through momentum, they could feel the power of this tiger. Roar. Jenny maintained the momentum like a tiger roaring in a forest. Just ready to roar again. Snapped. Chu Xiu came over and slapped her on the back of the head. 563. What the hell is that? Roar 99. Seeing that it was Chu Xiu, Jenny lost her momentum instantly. Honestly bowed his head. This scene stunned Yi and others. You tamed this tiger? Yi asked in surprise. Not me. It was, and who tamed it? Chu Xiu said lightly. Here, Annie also jumped out of the plane and walked towards the spotted winged tiger.
Roar. See Annie.
As if she was wronged, Jenny immediately moved the huge tiger head over, rubbing from Annie's palm. Shh, be quiet, don't yell in the future. Annie reassured the zebra-winged tiger while exhorting. The girls saw this. All believed that Annie tamed the tiger. Little Annie, you are too amazing. The boulder, like Yi, ran over directly, while praising Annie, while looking at the spotted winged tiger. Be careful. Anyone can see it. Sister E, you can touch whatever you want, but Jenny actually has a good temper. Annie saw Yi's idea, Deb, and took the initiative to speak. Jenny, is she a tigress? Oh no, girl. After Yi was surprised, she wanted to touch the tiger even more. Annie nodded. Here, just when the girls were all focusing on the big tiger, Zhang Haoping got off the plane. Leader. I'll call someone now. 35. Let's go now. Before dark, we should be able to return to the arsenal. Get off the plane. Zhang Haoping prepared the staff and went to the arsenal again. Such is his character. After taking the task, I can't wait to finish it immediately. Don't be in such a hurry.
55.
Just the few of you if you go. The production line won't start. Chu Xiu waved his hand. Tomorrow dawn, let Lao Zhang take you to Huishan prison, Huishan base. 99. Pick a group of survivors to bring. 99. Chu Xiu ordered. Zhang Haoping and the others are regular soldiers no matter what. It would be a bit of a waste to have them as workers. Chu Xiu's plan. It is to let Zhang Hao and others manage the factory. As for the workers, there are still a large number of survivors in Huishan prison. After instructing Zhang Haoping, Chu Xiu placed the spotted winged tiger near the artificial lake in the community. Then I brought a few female villas and briefly talked about what happened today. After dinner, he went straight to Bai Zhao's laboratory. Came back? As soon as he entered the basement, Chu Xiu heard Bai Zhao's cold voice. Chu Xiu had a weird expression. I don't know why, but Bai Zhao said, I'm back. It sounds like a young daughter-in-law who has been married for many years waiting for her husband to return home. Well, I'm back. Chu Xiu's answer made it feel more like that. But Bai Xiao obviously won't notice this. At this time, she is wearing a self-made microscope glasses that can magnify.
Sit at the workbench.
It seems to be designing something. The graceful figure, with her back to Chu Xiu, draws a perfect arc on the chair. Bai Xiao, who is busy with work, is unaware of this. Annie tamed a beast? A tiger? Bai Xiao asked without looking back. There was no surprise in the words, as if he had known it for a long time. You already knew that Annie could tame beasts? Chu Xiu just remembered. The reason why I brought Annie with me was because of the advice Bai Xiao gave me before leaving. I analyzed the abilities of each of them, except you. Bai Xiao did not deny it. But when mentioning Chu Xiu, Bai Xiao raised his head. I finished analyzing the blood you gave me last time. It's weird. As Bai Xiao spoke, he turned around. You have a very terrible energy in your blood.
35.
This proves you are a very powerful awakener. The energy contained in your body is stronger than all of them combined. They were in Bai Xiao's mouth. Naturally, it was Li Qiuyue and the others. But Bai Xiao's words changed. But the analysis shows that you are more like a normal person. 35. The one without the ability to awaken. Bai Xiao doesn't understand. She had never seen this happen. I told you already. I'm not like them. Chu Xiu is not surprised at all, because his abilities are all copied. But it doesn't matter. Because I have nothing to help you, you have developed your own abilities very well. I don't know if it's an illusion. When Bai Xiao said that he couldn't help Chu Xiu could hear a trace of loss. What are you designing now? Chu Xiu changed the subject. He walked straight to Bai Xiao's side. Do you have time now? Bai Xiao did not rush to answer. Instead, while asking, he pushed a pile of blueprints in front of Chu Xiu. Haven't spoken yet. The meaning is already clear. 6,699. Chu Xiu knew that she was used by her as a human 3D printer again. Reluctantly, I checked the drawings. Discovery is not complicated. Just a very simple robot. Or a mechanical beast. This is a small idea that came to me while perfecting the neurofeedback system. A mechanical weapon that can be mass-produced. Bai Xiao introduced it plainly. This is a spider? Chu Xiu compared the parts on several drawings and had a simple concept of the final product. This is a giant four-legged mechanical spider. The reason why it is huge. It's because the drawings have already indicated that the four legs of this thing are more than 2 m long. While walking, the legs should be folded. But in any case, the upright height of this thing will never be lower than the height of a person. Didn't you take down the arsenal factory? So I thought to design a mechanical creature that can carry a variety of thermal weapons.
Bai Xiao said. The end.
Added one more sentence. And machines are much more reliable than people. 35. It is. Chu Xiu did not refute this sentence. As a magnetic field master that can manipulate metals, Chu Xiu is 200% in favor of creating mechanical creatures. I'll get you what's on the drawing right now. Chu Xiu said nothing. The production started directly in Bai Xiao's laboratory. Let me tell you in advance, this thing is not very intelligent. So don't expect too much from it. Bai Xiao added. With too much work, she couldn't find the time to write smarter programs for the mechanical spider. It's okay, it's a mule or a horse. You'll know when it's made. Chu Xiu didn't care. A wave of hands. The metal material in the experiment flew over immediately. Melt. Deformed. At a speed visible to the naked eye, it becomes a part. After the magnetic control upgrade, Chu Xiu is also more handy at building things. It is completely possible to multi-purpose and manufacture multiple parts at the same time. Are you stronger again? Bai Xiao obviously noticed this too. Before, she asked Chu Xiu to help build a robotic arm. Use that robotic arm. Bai Xiao made a lot of things, such as graphene batteries and the tracker before, etc. But looking at it now, Chu Xiu's production efficiency is much faster than that of the robotic arm. All right. In less than a moment, Chu Xiu made all the parts. Another important reason why it is so fast is that the structure of this thing is indeed relatively simple. Maybe it's a matter of mass production. By Xiao's design. Highlight the words simple and practical. If there is no problem, I will fight it for you directly. After the parts were made, Chu Xiu asked. After getting a positive response. Chu Xiu's thoughts moved, and all the surrounding parts moved. Connected together like Lego. The screw automatically pulls on.
Click.
After the last part is also installed. A mechanical spider with folded limbs came into view. The shape is a bit like the horror robot in the Red Police. It's just that the horror robot has 8 legs, and this guy only has 4. There must be a lot of things missing, right? Chu Xiu checked the robot spider. It was found that there are many key parts missing from it. It's understandable though. After all Chu Xiu can do is shape metal structures. As for other materials, such as crystalline silicon and other components, cannot be produced. Over there it's made. 35. Bai Xiao seems to have expected it long ago. Before Chu Xiu came, she had already handed over the parts that Chu Xiu could not make to the robotic arm. It's all done now. Dude, do you really think of me as a 3D printer? Chu Xiu said helplessly. But he didn't blame Bai Xiao or anything for that. To be honest, if I were Bai Xiao, I would definitely do the same. Because let a magnetic master make the machine. It's so convenient. That's it. Chu Xiu walked to the robotic arm. I found a bunch of manufactured parts, cameras, circuit boards, and so on. Right. Just install it directly. As Bai Xiao spoke, he brought a brick-sized graphene battery from the side. Mount it on the mechanical spider. That. Bai Xiao, have you considered getting a small reactor like the one in the movie? Seeing the graphene battery, Chu Xiu asked suddenly. The reason why you ask? It's because the future Bai Xiao really created that thing. Too bad it came out a little late. By the time Bai Xiao came up with a small portable nuclear fusion reactor, mankind had reached the point where it could not be saved. Nuclear fusion? No thoughts at the moment. 4 flowers. At this stage, graphene batteries are enough. Also, even if graphene batteries are not enough, I have already thought of alternatives. 39. Bai Xiao explained quietly. Fine. Chu Xiu said no more.
Soon.
The last part of the mechanical spider is also installed. Bai Xiao finished implanting the program. On the laptop, I clicked the start switch. Initializing. Initialization complete. System activated. With the mechanical sound, the mechanical spider, which was originally in a folded state, suddenly spread its limbs. Moved around in the lab. Said it was a spider. Actually, it's not very accurate. Because this thing has nothing to do with spiders except that it acts a bit like a spider. Round body. No brain. There are only 8 sensory cameras around the body which act as eyes. Besides, all that was left was a platform for carrying weapons. It's simple. 35. Chu Xiu couldn't help but sigh after reading it. Does it really have a recognition function? Chu Xiu couldn't help asking. This thing looks goofy and chubby. Of course there is. I have set you to the highest authority. 99. You can command it now. However, it does not carry any weapons now, so it has no combat effectiveness. After Bai Xiao finished speaking, he ignored Chu Xiu and the mechanical spider. Turn around and start the next job. No way. She has too many things to do for a long time. Forward, backward. Chu Xiu simply tried it. It turns out that this thing just looks silly and executes orders very quickly. Open your mouth. Immediate response here. Then I'll take this thing away. 35. Chu Xiu was very satisfied and left with the mechanical spider. You already have the blueprint. Wait for the arsenal to start. 99. You let them mass produce. 99. Before leaving, Bai Xiao added. It is good. After Chu Xiu finished speaking, he left the laboratory. The spider, like a little valet, followed the mountain behind.